I think that we're live. We're live? God damn it. Fucking thing sucks. It's got no words on it. Oh. Is it live? Are we live, pal? Oh, look at that. Looks like we're live finally. I guess, perhaps. Whatever, man. Oh, good enough. We live. Hey, what's up, Lee? How's it going, man? Right on, right on, right on. Cool. So, yeah, we're just going to get the hell started at this. So, what are we going to be looking at? Well, of course, you already know we got the Piers Morgan DeSantis interview. And because we're just, all professional and shit, I got the headphones on and all that jam. So, without further ado, and I don't have the chat pulled up or anything like that. Oh my gosh, it's just atrocious right now, isn't it? I know what I can do, in fact. I have the phone, or the chat pulled up on my phone. See, this is what happens. First time live and all that stuff. You have no idea if anything works. And see if I can get everything all figured out. Hey. You know what? There's 3 people here. Okay, there's 3 people here, and that's actually more than I expected. So I am thankful for that, all things considered. It's just really weird to see my face on that stream as well. But, hey. Oh, there. Wow. That's really delayed over this. But, hey, man. What do you expect? So, well, I think we should probably lay some groundwork first and foremost. Okay, so switch over to that right there. Actually, don't need my headphones on right now. Go and take a look at this. Okay, because what do we got here? So Trump on DeSantis as potential running mate. I never thought of Ron as a VP choice. It's crazy, right? Because there's actually a big Trump rally going on right now. I've got a whole bunch of speakers. I think Matt Gaetz has already been up there. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene is supposed to be there. She's at least there. I don't know if she's going to be speaking or not, but Trump's going to be taking the stage at some point this evening. I don't know. I'd imagine he's probably going to take some pot shots, especially considering or concerning this interview right here. So that's kind of why I wanted to take a look at it. And, well, we'll probably react to his rally here tomorrow. But we'll see how it goes. But first and foremost, I just want to see this as well. And I frankly don't care what he has to say. So former President Donald Trump appeared on a phone call with Rob Schmitt tonight, whatever that is over on Newsmax. Fantastic. To discuss Governor Ron DeSantis, who is expected to run for president. Yeah, in 2024, we already know that. Okay, so when it comes down to, DeSantis as a vice president pick, which I don't really know, man. Does that really seem like a good idea at this point? Like, I'm not really all that. I don't think he'd be a great pick at this point because he's really outed just a bunch of his different rhino proclivities. Realistically, man, and especially what we're going to be hearing in some of this interview, I can imagine it probably disqualifies him quite a bit. So, asked, if the option for Trump was there. No, I never thought about it. I thought we have a lot of great people, fantastic people, wonderful people in the Republican Party, but I never thought of Ron as a VP choice. It's an unlikely alliance. Why would I want? We already have me on the ticket, after all. We have me on the ticket. We don't need discount me, okay? Frankly, I think it would be stupid if we were to do that. And he should just stay down there in Florida. That'd be much better for him. It's like, back in the day, I kind of thought that it might have been a good idea. You know, it would have been a real good powerhouse. He can go in there and he can, drop, or I guess just kind of clear the entire way for Ron, set him up appropriately, and take his input when it comes to, appropriate cabinet positions or something like that, and set him up appropriately for 2028. But who even knows what the bench is going to look like? I've talked about it before when it comes to the Democrat side of the bench. Like, they're pretty low when it comes to that stuff, okay? Like, what's the roster, man? Like, I know I did the video earlier today on AOC, and she's definitely going to run at some point or another. It's just going to be, man, like, they ain't got nobody. It's going to be, I kind of thought that it was going to be, Gavin Newsom from California versus Ron DeSantis. Newsom was picking that fight, what was that, end of last year or something like that? It's really just, it's not very good for him, really, because you take a look even at what California has done in comparison to Florida. Like, Florida's prospering. Like, it's getting liberals, it's getting independents, it's getting all the Republicans from all of the different states that just want a little touch of freedom. Ron's been good as a governor. Can he extrapolate that onto the global scale, onto the presidential level? It really does remain to be seen. But what do we got here? So, okay. Well, actually, you know what? In the grand scheme of things, I think I'll let enough people come in, stare around looking at the camera long enough. Yeah, we're about 7 minutes in. Said we were going to start at 7 and bump that to about 7:15. See what the chat's looking like. Hey, we got 7. Hey, man, that is way too much. Hey, and thanks, Lee. Listen, I'm eventually going to figure out how to run this goddamn live stream, okay? Because my capture software, the OBS stuff, it looks like it does normally. I get the chat on here is so fucking delayed, so I just got it on my phone. So, no, man, I really appreciate it, man. And I'm glad you're liking this stuff, Lee. So, without further ado, I can at least see if the levels are going to be good. So now we can just hop on with the headphones, and I think we're going to play this at about a $1.25 speed. So if it's not noticeable or anything like that, and if it's not all that, I guess just kind of, if it doesn't take away from the experience, we'll put it at a $1.25 because I think that'll probably be decent. And given the fact that it is, two laborious speakers, the quicker the better. How about that? So, like I said, without further ado, and I've got some other stuff here to pull up as well to just add for some supplemental material because I think that's going to be quite important. So, enough rambling. Let's get at it, eh?
Good evening and welcome to a special edition of Piers Morgan Uncensored. From here, the governor's mansion in Tallahassee, Florida.
Oh, he went down.
Florida's
Okay.
Governor Ron DeSantis, the man that many think could be the next president of the United States.
Ron DeSantis will soon deliver his State of the State address. He's set to outline his agenda and highlight his possible 2024 presidential campaign.
DeSantis has an even bigger lead, more than 20 points in the survey that we showed you just yesterday.
It's hilarious. I don't know whose numbers. Okay, so they got USA Today and Suffolk University poll. Okay, that's very, very interesting. So that's from December. Well, also, I got some other polls that are pulled up. I want to make sure that this is, this one right here. So this one is taking a look at Harris-Harvard. It's a pretty good corollary to the Suffolk County, or the USA Today and the Suffolk one, because this one right here, like the Harris-Harvard polls, they lean incredibly left. Like, it's not a very good poll. Realistically, it was one of those ones in 2016 that was saying 98% Hillary Clinton. not all that good or anything like that, at least in my opinion. But you can at least track the trends. So you got on November 16th, you had Trump at 46%, 18 points over DeSantis. Some other polls that are going to be out there. We could be here for, just several hours at this point in time if you wanted to take a look at all of the more accurate ones, or the ones where Trump is just blowing everybody else out the water, but they have him at 18 points. Good enough, right? And then most recently, their poll numbers from the 22nd, 3 days ago so what would that put it? Thursday. So you got Trump up 26 points. That's an 8-point gain and a 4-point loss from DeSantis on that one. So even if you don't trust the polls themselves, if you just want to take a look at the trends that it's going, DeSantis is getting left behind. He's getting left behind because of just really weird, off-putting statements. Like, everybody else really doesn't much matter. They're just going to be cannon fodder once you get to the primary stage at the end of the day. But yeah, you just take a look at the trends there, man. That's what really tells the story. And then especially if you want to take a look at this as well. Okay, so you got the presidential election polls. This is from Harvard Harris, when they do the appropriate matchups. So Biden's 4 points behind Trump. Trump's up 10 on Harris. Well, that's Kamala Harris. If she's going to be running, like, bro, come on now. That would be such a good goddamn debate, just to hear her just nervously chuckle and Trump take her apart. I think that could be incredibly good. But then you just look at the matchups and, DeSantis, like he said before, and that's what we heard. One of the few things that I did hear from this entire interview was that Ron thinks that he can beat Biden. Ham sandwich can beat Biden. I could beat Biden. I can't even run for the motherfucker, but Biden, down 3 points. And then, DeSantis, an 8-point lead over Kamala Harris. Bro, if that's all you can muster from this left-leaning poll, and that's supposed to be your independent poll, that is supposed to be something that's a little bit more indicative, what they're saying, at least they got a pretty decent sample size when it all comes down to it. But yeah, man, I don't know. If you can legitimately pick Trump, everybody tells me that he is just, he's the full fat version of this. If you want to get the discount version, if you want to get, just DeSantis, the great value version of Trump, that's fine. Because what's the criticism that's out there? And I want to hear from anybody. I want to hear from you guys. Okay, got here. Hey, Brock, what's up, man? Hey, good to hear you. Yeah, good to see you guys popping in as well. I'll eventually figure out how to manage all this stuff instead of just babbling into the microphone like normal. But you know what? Hey, the first time, always the worst time, right? It's only uphill from here. Let's get that right. I've been recording all day. What the fuck did you expect? Anyways, so I think we got all the polls. We got the polls. We can at least go back to this. So this hypothetical matchup, 13 points over Trump, according to USA Today, that's not really going to factor into anything, but leave it up to Piers Morgan to, of course, cherry pick a couple of examples.
Yesterday, the news comes as DeSantis' top Republican rival, former President Trump, faces new legal trouble.
Also, sorry, we've got to do, break this up for fair use and shit like that, but interesting development when it comes to the Alvin Bragg stuff. Like, Trump was posting on Truth Social, as he does, in all caps and stuff. And the way that the media is running with this, it only makes Trump more appealing to his base, because that's what I personally like about Trump. Is that what you guys like about Trump? I like his raw approach to the media, his take no prisoners approach, where he's just simply gonna speak his mind regardless. That's the Trump in 2015 that everybody loved. Everybody told me we just like the Trump that tells it the way it is. And that's what he seems to be going back to. Now, if he just follows through with that during a suspected and hopeful 2024 campaign, then we got something to work on. So the way that the media is reporting, Trump posts disturbing baseball bat photo with Alvin Bragg, threatens death and destruction. Is that really the case? Or did he just post this? This side-by-side picture alongside the caption as well. So you got Trump with it. I've used the baseball bat picture a couple of different times throughout a few different thumbnails. I love it. It's hilarious. What does this really mean? Take the worst faith interpretation of this. Oh my God, he's going to cave in Alvin Bragg's head. Do you actually think he's going to? Do you think a 76-year-old man is going to pull up on somebody who's going to be as well protected as the district attorney of Manhattan? Yeah, I don't really think so, man. It's hyperbole, okay? It's to stir up his base over on Truth. Does anybody in the chat have a Truth Social account? Is anybody out there? Because I'd like to know. Hey, what's up, Ed? See you there. Sorry, I got a goofy little setup that I have here, but good to see you guys. But I don't know, man. I tried to get on the beta, I guess it would have been the beta for Truth Social. Didn't really end up amounting to anything, really. I don't know, man. Maybe I got an email. Maybe it went to the junk folder. But outside of Trump, what's the appeal to use Truth? Okay, no character limit? Is that all? I don't really know, man. But if everybody's taking screenshots of Trump, posting them over on Twitter, it's like he's there. But he'll eventually come back. But, man, okay, cool. What law does that break? Other than just the iron rule that's in the media, or the iron law that's in the media, that anything that Trump does is bad because orange man bad. But I want to get to the caption himself. Okay, so you got the caption, you got the pictures. So is he calling for death and destruction in the DA's office? Fucking of course not. What kind of person can charge another person? In this case, a former president of the United States and future, who got more votes than any sitting president in history. That's what they tell me all the time. The only other president that got more, we can't really check. We can't check the votes that he had. They're all legit. 81 million votes. Can't be wrong. Don't know how many of them actually regret their choice, but that's fine. That's fine. They can vote for me next time. And leading candidate by far for the Republican Party nomination with a crime when it is known by all that no crime has been committed. Not one. Never gonna happen. Where are we at? Lost my point. Doing too much Trump impersonation. Also known that potential death and destruction in such a false charge could be catastrophic for our country. Why? And who would do such a thing? Only a degenerate psychopath. That's why I have my bat. I don't trust anybody who's a degenerate psychopath around me. I need to protect myself. That's what the Second Amendment, it says the right to bear arms. I decide on baseball bat. You decided on a box of donuts. That's your choice. It's a free country that truly hates the United States. Yeah, okay, man, you read it in context. I don't really get the whole extrapolation that there's, threatens death and destruction. He's saying you go through on faulty charges. It's basically end of the republic type shit. But hey, man, you take a look at this as well. I swear to God, we will get back to the video. We'll get back to the interview. I just want to lay the groundwork and all this stuff. I don't know what other references we're going to need to pull up, but at least we know what we're going in with. So the Manhattan DA's office responds, Trump created false expectation he would be arrested. Trump created the false expectation. You've been investigating Trump since you took office at the beginning of, is that 2021 or 2022? Your fat ass has been there the entire fucking time trying to pin it on him. Fuck, that was one of your campaign promises, that you were going to go out there and we're going to get Trump. We're going to stick it to him. You and Letitia James, she's the AG of the entire state, right? Yeah, okay. Your boss, I guess. You guys ran on the exact same platform. We're going to prosecute Trump on what exactly? Her idea was on the fraud charges when it comes to the Trump organization. What did that end up amounting to? I think somebody paid a fine, really. I could go look, but it's not going to stop Trump from running for office. It really doesn't resonate with his base at all. Most people already forgot about it. And then this story right here, you just take a look at the facts, man, and it fucking falls flat on its face. It's hush money payments, for Christ's sakes. Hush money payments. An NDA, okay? It's the most basic agreement that two people that want a secret or an instance or an event to be kept under wraps, because it might not look good to the public. It might not resonate with everybody. Hell, if you want to, do whatever the hell you want. If I want somebody to come into my place, okay, I can have them sign an NDA because I don't want them to see my life-size oil painting of myself. I don't fucking have that. I ain't rich like that. But if they want an NDA for anything, you can, okay, what you're having for lunch, that can be put under NDA. You pay somebody off or you promise them a favor in the future. That's the legal agreement that you enter into. It's not rocket science, man. But when she broke that NDA, she's responsible for any of the legal liabilities that fall. But that's not even what's at dispute right now. What's at dispute is if, Trump used campaign finances in 2015 to reimburse Michael Cohen, and then Michael Cohen, who was his representative at the time, used that money that he laundered through him in order to pay Stormy Daniels so she wouldn't talk about Donald Trump being committing adultery. Is like, everybody knows that Trump fucks around. Everybody knows that Trump fucks around. So why are we concerned about that at all whatsoever? Why would he decide to put her under an NDA of anybody? It's like, you fucked a porn star. Great, wonderful, fantastic. Most people would consider that a pretty decent notch on their notch count. Not me, man. My proclivities when it comes to porn, I've never really been a porn guy to begin with. And even still, man, like, you could do better than that old washed up hag. But if he's going to be going after that even 2 years after the statute of limitations, bruh, like, it's done and dusted, dude. Like, you're just trying to fulfill a campaign promise. I understand. It's laudable for some people, especially for Democrats. Like Joe Biden, he was going to unite the country. But every other speech that the dude has is about as divisive as you can get. So, best of luck to you. Apparently, the grand jury is supposed to reconvene next week, and they'll figure something out. But, oh no, Trump had these false expectations. We were never going to fully invest. Yeah, you were. If you could get away with it, if Trump didn't put it on blast and make it a huge media issue last week, then you know what, you just would have went through with it, and then all of a sudden you would have got that picture that you were looking for. You were looking for the orange man perp walk, but shit ain't gonna happen uncontested. But we're not here. We have all the groundwork laid, as far as I know so far. We've got 35 seconds in, making good time so far. So let's continue. I need to grab a drink anyways.
We covered a wide range of issues from Ukraine. I was a bit surprised, and I think some people were, that you seem to be almost dismissing it as a kind of local dispute. So I'm working at Guantanamo Bay. You authorise the use of force feeding some of the detainees who were on hunger strike.
I was a junior officer. I didn't have authority to authorize anything.
And in Iraq,
we could defeat them on the battlefield without even blinking an eye.
How he proposed to his wife.
We were out on the balcony and just kind of dropped to the knee and
asked her. Didn't he?
Oh yeah, of course.
So you took the knee, Governor?
Yeah, we did. That's the only time I take a knee is for that one.
Oh my God.
Donald Trump. You made a fatal error in your relationship with Donald Trump. You got too popular. And of course, the burning question everybody wants to know the answer to. Is he going to run? You think you can beat Biden?
I think so.
So you're running them. Here it is, me, one-on-one with Governor Ron DeSantis in the governor's mansion.
Fantastic. Okay. Scoop of the year.
Well, first of all, thank you very much indeed.
Welcome to the free state of Florida.
I've come all the way from London for this, so that's because London, like most cities in the world right now, and most countries in the world, they're all beginning to ask the same question. Who's this guy, Ron DeSantis?
How do you stop knife crimes?
Are you aware of this?
I am, and we've been able to see a little bit of that. And look, I have the privilege of being the governor of one of the most dynamic jurisdictions in the world right now. If you look over the last 4 or 5 years, the amount of people that have decided to move to Florida, just visit Florida, or even just look to Florida for inspiration has been unlike anything we've seen in the state's history. So we've got a lot of tremendous people here. We've got a lot going on that's positive, and we're not afraid to lead the way.
Yeah, especially if you're a big multinational company, you can come in and get preferential tax treatment.
I want to start with a positive quote, which you're going to really
like. All right.
And then move on
to
have
AIDS.
That other people have said. So it's going to start well, this, okay? This is from a guy called Richard Littlejohn. He writes for the Daily Mail newspaper.
Oh, Christ.
Also a Florida resident for many decades. And he's a friend of mine. And he wrote this recently.
Well, that's
DeSantis
fantastic.
is living proof that when conservatives govern as conviction conservatives, committed to freedom, light regulation, low taxes, strong borders, and proper policing, and don't crumble in the face of militant wokery and mad
you guys hear everything all right?
imposed by a noisy minority of headbangers, voters lap it up. And he wrote this obviously after your thumping win in the midterms. What's your response to that first? Well, is that a good categorization of why you think you've been successful?
I think all.
Well, okay. That's kind of what I want to hear from you guys, because holy shit, there's way more people than I would have anticipated. But this is what I'd like to hear from you guys. Why do you think DeSantis won by 20 points? Do you think that it's exclusively because he did a good job, or because I don't know. I don't really actually know all of his positions prior to really adopting the whole Trump mystique, I guess we can say on that one. But was he more of a representation of the MAGA brand? Would you attribute that to him and then the success based off of that? Or was that just kind of a tacit agreement for him to become president going forward? You guys, I don't really know how much you could attribute that to him or a weak opposition. That's the question that I wanted to ask, because Charlie Crist, like, we took a look at him a bunch of different times. Like, what was the first thing that he said when he first got nominated? If you voted for Ron DeSantis, I don't want your vote. It's like, bro, he won the election. Like, he's got a majority of the votes, even though it was only 37,000 votes. But still, you need some people that voted for him to come over and vote for you. I think he just crushes cans, man. Like, he hits all of the easy issues, and that he does a really good job of crushing easy issues. But as for furthering a cause, I don't really see him as that. I think he's a good guy who could continue after a ship has been righted. But coming up with his own individuality, man, that's not me, man. Okay, so yeah, I can turn that up, guys. No problem. Thanks for that. Yeah. Relying on you guys. Anything that I can possibly do that to make your viewing experience better, just let me know. Let's see what we can do on this guy right here.
That's true. I think.
How's that?
Like
that looks a little bit better.
Conservation forever, but this is like things that really matter to people. I'm not trying to control their lives. I'm just trying to make the environment better. Crime, we're law and order. We are not dealing with letting criminals out or going soft. I actually removed the prosecutor from Tampa who said he wasn't going to follow the law. COVID, we made sure that we protected people's freedoms. People knew they could come here and do well. And yes, we have no income.
How long did you keep those restrictions up there, Ron? You never want to pin down the fact that you were still stumping hard for the vaccine in 2022, that you didn't lift all of the regulations that you put in place after the 15 days to flatten the curve that Trump actually stumped for right at the beginning, right at the midway through in March of 2020. You were the one to put everything down April 1st, 2020. Didn't lift them until September of 2021. Funny thing, he always likes to say, yep, Florida did it good. I won't deny that. Florida did do it good. But don't try to say that you did it the best. I would say Georgia did it the best because they were one of the bigger states that were out there that opened up first. You just, once again, followed a lead. That's why he's a good follow-up guy. He's like the Brit. If you guys like baseball, I like baseball. Not a starter. Ron DeSantis is not a starter. He's the bridge guy. He's the 7th and 8th inning guy. Not really a closer. You need kind of a really short temper in order to be a closer. You have to be really good, really dialed in. You kind of got to have the longevity and the mentality of the starter, but then also just the disposition of just sheer anger to be a good closer. Ron, on the other hand, he'll get you through those lackadaisical innings. He'll get you through this 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hitters, but don't ask him to hit at the top of the order. He's good though. I do kind of like him, but I don't know, man. That's just my opinion.
Income tax. We have one of the lowest per capita tax burdens in the country, lowest per capita debt burdens in the country, and the largest budget surplus in the history of the state. We have more people, significantly more people employed today than we did pre-COVID.
Big true, Brian.
A lot of the lockdown states still haven't gotten back to their pre-COVID employment levels, and so I think what we've done is worked, and I think people are
louder on the volume.
Positively.
All this has made you very popular in Florida. I mean, just anecdotally, being here for a few days, I've been completely stunned, frankly, by the amount of adulation you get from Floridians. Almost everyone I've talked to, well, we love the governor. We love Ron DeSantis. Like, relentless, right? So that's great. But as your star has risen, as you know, out have come the knives. Sure. Out have come the wider world wanting to say, okay, well, this is who this guy is. So I want to read you some of the negatives.
Sure.
Okay.
There we go.
This is from Vanity Fair. They said you're a wannabe autocrat. Already governed the Sunshine State like a banana republic. You're the...
Wait, a Vanity Fair quote, a fucking fashion review. Oh, you're a wannabe autocrat. I'm like, just fuck off, man.
Genghis Khan.
If he wasn't such a turncoat, I'd be defending him a little stronger. But hey, he might win us back. He actually might win us back. So I'm coming in a little biased, let's be completely honest. But if he has a good interview here, he might win me back. Who knows?
Of social issues, using every opportunity to target and demonize groups that have already been targeted and demonized throughout history. Trevor Noah called you an ignorant racist. Stephen Colbert, a gaping bleep. Seth Meyers said you were cruel, sadistic, stupid, repulsive, ghoulish. When you see this...
Let's just see how many views. Okay, so this has 387,000 views. This is the uncut version. Like, there was a 50-minute long interview. Maybe that was the one that actually went to TV or whatever. He just named off what? Jon Stewart, Trevor Noah, like two guys that I think Jon Stewart has an Apple show. Trevor Noah's fucking unemployed. Okay, cool. Did you go take a walk down at a fucking Midtown Miami and ask what a couple of bums thought about DeSantis? Like, that's how fucking relevant that shit is. And I'm a moron.
Kind of hate you. What it says to me as a journalist who's covered a lot of presidential runs and political maneuverings is that it means that people are getting a bit worried about you.
I think it's right. I think they see me over the target. I'm obviously coming at it from a different perspective than they like to see. Those are all people on the left and sometimes far left. But here's the thing. I think the reason why I won the biggest landslide in the history of Florida for governor's race is because that criticism is so far removed from the reality. There's legitimate things we can criticize everybody for, including me. But when you start talking about being an autocrat, all I do is I look at my constitutional powers and I govern in a way to advance the principles that I believe in. I'm passing things through the legislature. That's the constitutional way to do business here. They get mad if we sign legislation, but I'm not just doing it alone. And I would note, they don't have the same criticism of Biden if he does unilateral forgiveness of student loans or some of these other things. So I think a lot of it's misplaced. And I think part of it is like people look and they say, okay, you're saying like all these crazy things. I'm looking at this guy. He makes sense to me. The criticism really falls on deaf ears. And I got it from all quarters for the whole time I was governor. I mean, right. During COVID, I was the #1 governor being attacked. And that happened pretty much relentlessly. And yet the people...
I criticized you.
There you go. And that's fine.
He definitely was the #1 governor criticized. And that's 1,000% true. Like Kemp, he caught a little bit of shit. I remember right at the beginning. Oh, Georgia. Oh, this is good. Oh, this is going to be the end of times. He's going out there. Oh, he's opening up the state. You have no idea what's going to end up happening. And it's like nothing after that. But you also know about the proclivities of Brian Kemp as well. The dude is, like, there's no hiding the fucking tusk on that rhino right there. Like, that guy's fucking terrible. Also, coincidentally, had another crushing gubernatorial victory in 2022. You don't hear him, well, actually, you don't hear him anywhere because nobody invites the motherfucker to an interview because he's kind of a boring piece of shit. But hey, Ron's, he's trumpeting his victories and few and far between, I guess. But hey, man, whatever.
Over to that, I checked what I tweeted about you historically.
There you go.
And I found a tweet, I think in 2021, where it looked like Florida's record was not going to be good on COVID because you've been one of the first people in America, certainly, to bring back freedoms for people. And I was quite scathing. I said, this guy's going to have blood on his hands. Actually, it didn't turn out that way. No. Actually, you were very bold in a lot of the stuff you were doing, bolder than many other governors, and it turned out in many areas you were vindicated.
Well, here's the thing. Excess mortality, lowest in the Sun Belt, even lower than New York and California for all-cause excess mortality. And then, of course, economically and freedom, we've done way better. Now, listen.
As somebody who was following all the different rates throughout the entirety of this stuff, like I caught a strike. Some of you guys might not remember, but I caught a strike. Oh shit, when was that? I think it was about spring of 2021 where I was just talking about Texas. Now, Texas caught quite a bit of shit directly from Biden as well, and of course not on the same level that DeSantis did as well, but when they dropped their mask mandate to begin with, oh, that's Neanderthal thinking, or whatever that old cretin up there in the White House was thinking about. But you take a look at the Texas numbers compared to the Florida numbers, compared to any of the other states that didn't lock down, excess mortality rates per capita, exact same shit. You take a look at the places that locked down super hard, excess mortality rates outside of anything to do with the mandates and stuff, they're pretty bad because holy shit, the economic impact, the fact that you put so many people into poverty, that's a big fucking problem. That is a generational problem outside of keeping some masks on some people's face. That's a big problem. That's going to be a huge hurdle for any, well, during that time, sitting governor in any of those places. But then again, with the churn of the media, they're kind of fucking stupid individuals, at least in my opinion.
I was very concerned about COVID because I've got more elderly than just about anyone. I've got 4,000 long-term care facilities. I've got condos with seniors stuffed in them all across.
Didn't you see what Gretchen Whitmer and Cuomo and Wolf and Evers did? You know what they did with their elderly? Hey, don't have to worry about them anymore.
So this was, and I'm a tourism state, so this was a huge existential threat to Florida. So we took it very seriously.
And you weren't an anti-vaxxer, to be clear, right?
Well, no, look.
He was stumping for it pretty hard, but let's see what his current... I love that pause screen. Do love it.
Look, I mean, I think that we thought the vax would end COVID. I think during the Delta wave, even though you had massive vax, you saw a major a wave of COVID. And so then what I did is like, okay, the vax isn't stopping the spread. Let's make sure people have treatments. But we took it very seriously. I followed the data, but I also believe that, okay, there's data that you look at, but you also have to trust people to make decisions. This idea that we're going to keep using coercion, I just don't think that that works and is sustainable. So part of it was the science, but part of it was also just a belief in people making their best decisions for themselves.
This was the motherfucker right here. Okay, Ron DeSantis was the same guy. Fuck, let's see if I can pull it up here. I should be able to find it. Okay, I really don't need to see. Okay, you can actually see like where I get all my sauce here. So you guys that are down here, okay, you guys that are checking out the live, you're going to figure out where I get a lot of my good sauce from. So, okay, so we got Barnes here. I've shouted him out a bunch of different times, but this guy is a retweeting machine, and especially when it comes to digging up the dirt lately on Ron DeSantis, especially when it came to him, from 2016. Fuck, man. Like, Ron DeSantis was talking about, if you don't use the vaccines, we're going to take them away from you. Fuck, man. Man. Yeah, I could find it off screen. Fuck it. We'll just go back to the interview. But that was the gist of that shit. I'm not anti-vax or anything, and I'm not scared about anything. Or if you guys don't use them, you're not going to have them at your hospital. I was like, fuck
One
off.
of the other criticisms that's used against you is about your personality. It probably comes from people who don't know you very well, because those who do, who I've spoken to, tell a different story. But you're being depicted in some of the national media as very intense, quite boring.
Dollar store Trump.
Charisma devoid.
True.
Someone reviewed your book and said he would launch any charm offensive unarmed. Somebody else, New York Times, a politician's memoir written by ChatGPT, right? And there's a kind of consistent vein of this. You're aware of this.
I think, sorry for pausing so much, but, just a little fucking stream of consciousness off top of this. He's kind of a return. If you guys were watching the vice presidential debates back during 2020, okay, when everybody was talking about, Mike Pence, he looks so good up there. He's just like Trump without all the bloviating. You get all the same policies of Trump without any of the baggage and hurt feelings. If you actually give a fuck about the current state of this country, like, yo, bro, if I gotta see another fucking tweet about some drag time story hour or some fucking dude swinging his dick in a kid's face, I'm about to lose it. I don't even have kids or anything like that, but you need somebody who's going to go in there and go, that's pedophile. We don't need those type of people here. You can take those pedos. I hear that they like to be called maps. Well, you know what you do with maps? Well, you guys can figure it out. You could finish the joke. But if you're going to be Ron DeSantis, listen, we'll take away the liquor licenses of the places that are out there, and he'll just be very inoffensive. And it's like that might placate to the soccer mom until you start to run. If he ever gets the nomination, this motherfucker's gonna fold under the pressure, because he's got no swag. Nobody has really pushed up against him. Sure, he's got a couple, because what was that Vanity Fair quote? I even forget. He's got a lack of charisma. I got plenty of charisma. I can just shake it off, and I've done a good job for Florida. What the fuck does that mean to California, who you get painted on the daily that you're a dog shit individual, okay? That your association to Trump makes you a racist and a terrible person. How the fuck are you going to shake that to anybody in Los Angeles? How are you going to pull more of a black vote? Because that's something else. When I was listening to Steve Crowder earlier this week, he was talking about how Trump does really good with minorities. And it's like, that totally makes sense for a bunch of different reasons that are down there. Like, okay, Trump was sung about in fucking rap songs. Do you ever think that face is going to make it on a Little Dirk album? Yeah, I'll fucking think so.
By ChatGPT, right? And there's a kind of consistent vein of this. You're aware of this.
Hey, shout out, Ed. I just seen... Sorry, man. I wish I had the fucking chat on the screen and shit like that. First live stream and all. And, hey, man. Shout out to you, man.
A, do you care when people get personal like this about your character? And B, is any of that true? Or is it that you have a kind of a persona
shout out to you, George,
that you prefer to have as a leader of a state like Florida, and you save the other stuff from away from the public gaze?
Well, I appreciate the knocks on the book. It's the #1 book in America, right? Far and away. I've sold more than any non-president in the history of the country in terms of the first week. So we've been doing pretty good. A lot of people like it.
Oh, wow. Fucking politician's book. I'm sure that's a
hostile New York Times review help sales?
Yes, with conservatives, of course it does, yes. So here's the thing, I think, these are people who are in the political class, journalist class, politicians in like DC in particular. They get mad. I don't do the cocktail parties. I don't like rubbing elbows with other people. I like doing my job and then spending time with my family. That's just what I do. A lot of the people that are criticizing, they would say, oh, he doesn't do well with donors. He doesn't glad hand with them. And yet I raise more.
Oh, no. Yeah, he does. Oh, fuck. I'll let him finish the sentence before I just say that he just takes a bunch of neocon money.
Money than any non-presidential candidate in the history of America. Are you kidding?
Yeah, no, because of your close association with Mitch McConnell. How many millions of dollars when you were, 20 points ahead of Charlie Crist did you end up taking? Wasn't it close to, in on and around 8 digits? Oh, yeah, exactly. I raised so much money. Yeah, because you're Trump without all the additional baggage and you have all the support of the neocons. Yeah, great, wonderful, fantastic.
Kidding me? So we tend to do, we do well, but I do think that, I deal better with regular people than I do with some of the people in the political class. And I think that has been true for the entire time I've been around.
Your book, the best-selling book, as you rightly said, you start with a quote from Sir Winston Churchill, the greatest of all Britons, certainly as far as I'm concerned. And it's about courage. And it says, courage is rightly considered the foremost of virtues, for upon it all others depend. Why did you choose that as the quote to kind of set up the book?
Why would you have... Okay, listen, if you're going to be running, you're going to be releasing a book and you want to be the president of the United States... Why the fuck do you quote a politician from the place where the United States got its independence from? God damn it, man. He has the political instincts of a fucking wombat.
Because I think what I've been called upon to do as governor is make the right decisions when it wasn't easy. And when people tell you politically, a lot of people thought I was dead a few years ago because I was charting my different course. And
well, actually, you were dead before your election in 2018, but we're just parsing hairs on that one.
My view is, I got elected to save the jobs of the people I represent. It can't be looking out for my own job. I can't worry about getting criticized. I can't worry about the political fallout. I've got to do what's right, and I've got to stick by that, and I've got to be willing to take the arrows. And I think we need more of that in terms of our leaders now, because when you want to do the right thing with the media environment, social media, all this stuff, it's usually not like people are just like, oh, great. Like, people come at you. And that's just the price you got to pay for leadership. But I think it's an ingredient that's essential.
Is Churchill a hero of yours?
Absolutely.
Why?
Well, he saw the danger very, very early on. He spoke out, and he rallied Britain in a very difficult time. And I think he was just very inspirational. He's a strong leader, of course, but he had a way with words. How you say these things to really stir people's patriotism, emotions, I think is something that I've always admired.
Okay, I think that quote right there encapsulates everything that I have a problem with DeSantis on. See, yes, Winston Churchill. Okay, yeah, great, wonderful, fantastic. And nothing to take away from Churchill, of course. Here's the thing. I'm never, ever, 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 ever expecting Ron DeSantis to deliver that rooftop. They will bomb us from the air, from the seas, from the skies. He's never going to deliver that speech. But the fact that he cares so much about the way that the message is delivered, that bothers me personally. I don't know. Maybe it placates to other people that are out there. Maybe I'm taking it too seriously. Maybe it resonates with you guys. You're just tired of seeing all the different attacks on Trump. It's like, oh no, the way that he says things. It's like maybe if he softens his message. But then again, if anybody softens their message, that takes away from who they are. The reason that people elected them, the reason that the people wanted them to begin with. It's like, oh man, he doesn't get it. He really doesn't get it. He sees all the talking points of MAGA. He sees all the talking points of America First. He thinks that he can do it and try to craft the message, but you have to realize once you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound when it comes to this stuff. What comes with the different talking points behind that requires a strong message, because he sees it just as well as everybody else that shit's rolling downhill, okay? On top of, oh yeah, the drag time story hour that I talked about to begin with. You got the fentanyl crisis, you got the southern border crisis, you've got, well, if you're to believe the left, you got rising tides. Eventually, Miami's going to be underwater. How many buckets are you going to deliver down there? That shit's retarded anyways. But he just cares about how things are said, because he's sitting down with the rest of that Neocon think tank. He's sitting down with all of those people, and he's really assessing. He's taking a look at the demographics. Meanwhile, Trump is probably talking to right now. Might peek into that tomorrow or something like that. I think it's the outdoor stadium was set up for like 20,000 people. Ron DeSantis rallies, a couple dozen. It's better than Biden. That's the reason why he thinks that he can win, but let's not fucking mince hairs on this one. He's dollar store Trump.
Courage is a big theme of your book. What does courage mean to you? Real courage?
Well, I think it means just willing to pay a price.
Nobody
I
reads
tell
the
a story
books.
about when I used to fly to D.C., you'd fly by the National Mall, look out the left side of the plane, see all the great monuments and the Capitol, big man, how great is our country? But the best monuments are really outside the right side of the plane, over the Potomac River in a place called Arlington National Cemetery. Headstones arranged orderly over those rolling hills, and they made the ultimate sacrifice, and it just shows, and this is on the grandest level, you can have the best Constitution in the world, the best Declaration of Independence in the world. You don't have people willing to stand up, risk, and give their lives for that. It doesn't amount to very much. Now here, what we have to deal with is far less than what they had to give, but you do got to give something. And if you're not willing to pay a price to exercise leadership, you ain't going to be a good leader.
You seem to have a very...
Says the guy who took the lead of everybody else that is out there. The mask mandates, Texas did it first, opening up, dropping some of the unessential lockdowns. Forget the specific terminology. It's better left forgotten into the past. But you waited until Georgia did something. You remember, you got Kristi Noem up there. Remember she's a governor out there? She never locked down South Dakota? South Dakota. Yeah, she never locked down any of that stuff. And she's out there going... What the fuck do I got to do to get noticed? Well, not back down on transgender bills to begin with. Veto the one that passed through the House unanimously. It's like, I just don't want to piss off the NCAA. She killed her political campaign right there.
Thick skin, and I mean that as a compliment.
Yeah.
But even for someone like you, as I say, your star rises and you start being called the new Hitler, the new Mussolini, the new Genghis Khan. That's all been said about you by people. It's quite
extraordinary. I think it reveals them more than it says anything about me.
Do you care about that kind of thing?
No, honestly, I think if they have to resort to stuff like that, I mean, think about it. Those names, when I'm the state that's the fastest growing and the #1 net in migration, if that was true, people would be fleeing Florida and I wouldn't have won by 1.5 million votes. So I think it's that they have trouble really hitting me on substance, and so they got to resort to some of the knee-jerk stuff. So it kind of just confirmation that I'm over the target. And look, those voices are, they're on the far left, and they see me basically beating them on a lot of these issues.
There's a great quote, and I'm actually going to say the word, although we'll bleep it when this airs, but this was from a Republican consultant.
F-A-G.
To the New Yorker. Ron's strength as a politician is that he doesn't give a Ron's weakness as a politician is that he doesn't give a
Oh my God, who's that strategist? Karl fucking Rove? Like, he obviously cares. Like, you've been sitting down with him for what, like 10 fucking minutes? Okay. He cares about how the message is said, not what the message is. Like, come on. Maybe he's starstruck. I don't know. Fucking...
What do you think of that depiction of where you've got to? Well, any truth to that?
I think, like, if you look at the daily news cycle, all the nonsense that gets, the spaghetti that gets thrown against the wall, it doesn't bother me at all. I don't get involved with that. Like, I have a true north I have to get to on all the issues that I'm trying to do. You either do it or you don't, and that will just kind of take you off course. And so in that sense, the political circus, I don't care for that, and I don't why. But I do think in terms of just every day waking up, I mean, I care about making a difference for people. And you've seen it like COVID, education, all these things. People appreciate it. If you're willing to stand up and fight for them, man, they'll walk over broken glass barefoot to support you, and that's what we've done.
They'll even hop into a mock Top Gun Maverick fighter jet and have Ron DeSantis across the helmet. They'll even do that for you, too. I don't like the circus, though.
You've achieved a lot in Florida, and you had this thumping win. 1.5 million more people voted for you second time round as governor. An amazing validation of what you've been doing. And like I say, I've been hearing it firsthand, so there's no denying you've been very successful and very popular. But that prompts the question, could you do that nationally? Could you transport the Ron DeSantis playbook, if you like, for Florida?
Spicy take on Winston Churchill.
I think you could. I think one of the things that was interesting about my election is the voters in Florida overwhelmingly thought the country was on the wrong track, but they thought Florida was on the right track. Right. So they saw the difference in terms of how things are governed. I mean, just think about it. We run big budget surpluses. The federal government's $31 trillion in debt. We're very tough on crime. The policies in Washington are to be more weak on crime. We believe in good stewards of the environment, but I don't want to control everyone's behavior with some of the stuff that's going on. And we have really fought against the woke ideology.
Have you really, though? But also something else that you fought very hard against is the Second Amendment. I don't know if you guys caught the video. I'm pretty sure I released it already. But the one where Ron DeSantis signed in red flag laws. Red flag laws in Florida, of all places. Really does get the old noggin jogging. It's almost like if you're not paying attention to something at the time, it just doesn't exist. Somebody needs another campaign issue to bring up every once in a while. Hey, if somebody's going to come after them and attack them, we need to revisit those laws that I might have signed in at a knee-jerk reaction during Sandy Hook in the aftermath of that. Yeah, no, don't pay attention to what the right hand is doing while the left is just over there, just trying to stir up some controversy.
People, this is not just
Which
Republicans.
I completely agree. I read a whole book about this.
It's not just Republicans that are concerned. These are across the spectrum. To have stuff that's being done, people know this isn't even in reality. We cannot be governed by a woke agenda. And I would tell you, some of these mayors and prosecutors that have gotten elected and around the country on that agenda, their societies have decayed as a result of it. San Francisco, some of these places where crime is up. So I think just some common sense, some leadership, some courage, and being right on the issues, I think could go a long way.
What I want to know is, where did this come from?
Something I want to mention here from Puddle of AIDS. Hilarious fucking name, by the way. Okay, your cousin is leaving from Fort Lauderdale because of all the crime. We both came from Chicago, and he says it's turning into Chicago. I've heard that. I've heard that there's a lot of knife crime that's going on in Fort Lauderdale. I need to take a look into that because I've definitely heard that before. And yeah, man, to hear that, that's interesting. That's interesting. Why Fort Lauderdale? It's like there's a lot of interesting individuals in Orlando, and then it's just scam central in Miami. That's what I hear.
Come from. So tell me a little bit about your upbringing. I know your father was a Nielsen TV engineer for TV ratings.
Because back then you had to put the box on the television sets.
And he was physically doing that. And your mum was a nurse. And they still live in Dunedin, I think, in
Dunedin, Florida.
Dunedin.
Founded by Scots.
Yes, indeed.
And the home of the single A affiliate of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah. Tell me about them and about the influence they've had on you.
So my father is from Western Pennsylvania, in a town called Aliquippa. That's a steel town. His father worked in the steel mills. My mother's from Youngstown, Ohio, another steel town. So this is blue collar, gritty, religious,
boring,
patriotic. And so I was born in Florida and grew up in the Tampa Bay area, and that was a great place to do. But in terms of like my household values, really reflected that working class upbringing. And basically, what I think instilled in me is, I love the country, trusted God, but just really believed you don't get anything handed to you in this life. You've got to work for it. And so I had a work ethic that I developed in my childhood and that carried me through that, there's a lot of things that happen in this world that you can't control. The one thing you can control, are you going to be able to look in the mirror every day and say, I'm getting the most out of my God-given ability? And that's what I try to do.
The other question I do is look in the mirror every day and think, am I about to do something my mother will either like or dislike?
There you go.
Do you have that?
Yo, what the fuck is this framing? It's like, okay, Piers Morgan, like him or not, he's a fairly famous individual and one of the most accomplished interviewers, and he's giving out it's like, what's with this fucking waffle and shit? It's like, I need to perform for my mother. There's a reason he's been divorced twice.
Absolutely.
Guiding principle.
Absolutely.
So your mother, very important in terms of keeping you on the straight.
Yeah, I mean, look, just in terms of like growing up, I knew what was right and wrong. That was instilled into me. And
I wonder if you guys are catching this as well. I'm going to run this back here for a second because I think it's very interesting to peek.
I mean, look, just in terms of like growing up, I knew what was right and wrong. That was instilled into me, and that's just something that carries with you all the way for the rest of your life.
The way that he answers questions sometimes is just somebody... I like to understand body language. I'm not going to say I'm an expert or anything like that. But the way that he just answered that, it's like, I know what right and wrong is. He's given those underlying characteristics that he's like, no, I'm not telling you anything that's truthful. I'm just giving you these prepackaged answers. But then he gave a little head nod as to one of the things as well. Let's see if we can run it back and see if we can catch it.
That was instilled into me. Yeah. And that's just something that carries with you all the way for the rest of your life.
You did a press conference.
Yep. He learned something, but he isn't telling you what he learned there. See if that continues on. Let's just peek the side-to-side head movement.
This morning, and you were responding to the reports, rumors of Donald Trump potentially being indicted. And you gave an interesting response, very sort of supportive of him in a way.
True,
by
Brian,
saying,
true.
Yeah, I think what's happening there is outrageous. It's political posturing of this deal and so on in New York, and they should be focused on more important things. But you also repeated twice you didn't have any knowledge of hush money being paid to porn stars. Was I right to feel that there was a slightly censorious tone to that kind of thing is just not anything you would ever get involved with?
Well, I think...
Yo, that's a good-ass question, because he mentioned what I talked about when I covered it in the video there. It's one of those dismissal things. Hey, I'm such a good person. I would never be caught doing anything so debaucherous. I love my wife. We're just going to have the white picket fence, and we're just going to be the 1950s definition of a good, strong family. We got the 2 kids. We got the little dog, and my wife is just so beautiful. Who fucking cares, bro? You're supposed to be you were the chosen one. You're supposed to inherit this movement. You're inheriting it from a guy who's been divorced 3 different times. He's somebody who actually doesn't give a fuck. You know, that quote that was attributed to Ron. Oh, the best thing about Ron is he doesn't give a fuck. The worst thing about Ron, he doesn't give a fuck. Are you sure you weren't talking about Trump at the time? Are you sure?
There's a lot of speculation about what the underlying conduct is. That is purported to be it. And you know, the reality is that's just outside my wheelhouse. I mean, that's just not something that I can speak to. So
I don't know if it's reaffirming or anything like that. And then the way that he just opens everything up, it's like, see, I wouldn't do anything so debaucherous. No, not at all. You gotta believe me, guys.
You know, I hope it doesn't come to where you end up seeing this going forward. I mean, look, if you are a very strident prosecutor, and this guy's on the left, and you're not prosecuting a lot of crimes, Manhattan's gotten less safe, you're going to go after somebody on the other side for some novel offense. That just does not inspire confidence, and people see that as weaponizing the justice system. So I think it's fundamentally wrong to do that, and you know, I just made it be known. But we'll see. Maybe it won't come to that. I mean, we haven't seen anything firm yet.
It does.
That's actually a good response to that. Okay, if he would have said that when he was up at the podium instead of just being in really small Ron mode, it's kind of interesting. Okay, because I've watched a fair few Trump interviews and a couple of other. I like to watch interviews, documentaries, true crime. Well, not really so much true crime, but just, you know, documentaries and breakdowns such as that. So I see a bunch of people in these type of scenarios, just one-on-one or just roundtable talks. Ron doesn't take up a lot of room. Like, he just sits there. Maybe he's uncomfortable by this entire situation, but you only see him move his hands in this small of an area, okay? If this was Trump, he'd be all over the top. He'd be coming over the top. Excuse me, reaching out. Ron's just sitting in the chair. Nothing against him for that. It's just, you gotta be a little bit more charismatic if you want to be the leader of the free world. Maybe not in this election cycle. Maybe he's just testing the waters and realizing that, oh shit, this, too hot for me. I'll come back in 2028. Okay, that'll be fine. On stage, though, because prior to all this shit breaking down, Ron was my guy. I can see you guys in the chat. He's also your guy as well, at least prior to this as well. But if, Governor Hairgel out there in California was to step on stage with them, that guy can definitely spin a yarn. He's a good storyteller. He's a shit politician, and he's driving California further and further into the ocean. He's just praying for the San Andreas fault to break so he can get some bailout money from the government, because that place is going under fucking bankruptcy real goddamn quick. But on a debate stage at a national level, he's getting eaten alive. Might have better policies. Ron does. It totally has better policies. But when it comes to the general public, okay, taking a look at somebody up on the stage, Patrick Bateman looking motherfucker, or the dude who looks like a shift manager down at Staples, you know where the public is going to go, because the general public is an ass.
Personal conduct in any leader politically in America, does it matter how you behave as a leader?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, what a leader, you really want to look to people like our founding fathers. Like, what type of character, it's not saying that you don't ever make a mistake in your personal life, but I think what type of character are you bringing? So somebody who really set the standard is George Washington, because he always put the republic over his own personal interests. When we won the American Revolution, Washington surrendered his sword. George III said, well, if he surrenders...
Can you not intrude into private grief? Without him, we could have had King Piers.
That's right.
By now.
But George III said, he's the greatest man in the world if he gives up power. And so I think the personal is more about how you handle your public duties and the kind of character that you bring to that endeavor.
How important is truth to you? We live in a world where people talk about my truth as if somehow you can create your own version of the truth. To me, facts are facts. The truth is what it is. It's the truth. People feel, whether it's been in the US or the UK with Boris Johnson, they feel like there's been a departure from truth being an important factor of leadership.
100%. I mean, look, truth is essential. We have to agree that there's a certain reality to the world we live in. And if we can just create our own facts, then we're never going to be able to agree on anything or never really be able to do policy in a way that makes sense. And so, yes, it's not your truth or my truth. It's the truth.
Very good political answer that he has there. I'm noticing a couple of interesting conversations in the chat here. I hate to pull away from it for a second. But you got Brian in the chat. Okay, he seems like Timmy Tryhard. 100% agree with that. But then he follows it up a little bit later. Can't tell if Ron's persona matches his core. That's kind of what we're seeing here. And that's kind of what I'm picking apart when it comes to the body language. It's kind of incongruent. Like, he knows what to say. He has all the prepackaged statements. He knows exactly how to skirt the questions. It's very old school politician talk. It's definitely that old Bushite persona coming through a bit. You know, all the coaching from Jeb Bush. And he said, I need to find the clip in order to verify this, but I've heard from a lot of people tell me that his personal conservative idol is George Herbert Walker Bush. That's a big red flag. That is a huge red flag. And then I also hear long reach one. I'm seeing, yeah, very active in the chat right there. And if that's true, we have some conversations to be having over on Rumble, because I can relate. I can definitely relate. Aunt who bit the dust, an uncle who had a heart attack, and a father who had a stroke. So, yeah, 100%.
Captain of your little baseball team, I think, the Little League World Series you went to, which was a big deal at the time, right?
That's right.
And you didn't win it, and you came up against some Californian pitcher who was pitching at an obscene rate of knots. What did that whole experience, though, bring you as a young Ron DeSantis?
Wear jockstrap.
Well, at that time, Taiwan was the powerhouse. They would win it most of the time. So we did the first day of practice for All-Stars. We wrote WWT on the bills of our hat. We want Taiwan. So you're talking about only 4 American teams even make it to Williamsport. And so we set out to do it, and we got there. And we didn't win the whole World Series, but that told me,
loser.
These little town in Florida can put their mind to this and do it. You know, you can accomplish really great things. And that was really the first thing that I had ever done in my life that was outside of my little provincial upbringing. And so I think it really helped me just be willing to shoot for the stars.
You went to Yale and Harvard. Was described as a blue-collar kid from Tampa among the communist millionaires. You said you were the only person to leave either of those places more conservative than you started.
I think so. I mean, I wasn't political when I got there.
He left Yale more conservative than when he started. Are you having a laugh, stupid? Yale, the place that has become famous for ground zero when it comes to cultural appropriation. You need to protect us from Halloween costumes. I left it more conservative. Do you think people have short-term memory loss? Like, bruh. And then I also see a couple of things I want to address as well. Brother Jermeet, I hear you loud and clear on that one, man. I've heard that as well. It's just a couple of behavior shifts. Yeah, it's just fucking weird, man, because if we were over on Rumble, we'd have some conversations. And like I said, man, first stream, shit's going to be a little bit ass, but once I figure out how to be over on Rumble, there's some pretty based conversations that I want to have. And then also, some of you, if you guys are over on Rumble as well, might notice that there's a little red join button. Need to figure out exactly what the fuck to do on that one. And then, of course, a big shout out to my buddy Quetz there, Big Ed. Okay, everyone in this chat should try to consider supporting. Hey, man, hey, you don't have to, but I appreciate that, man. That's super nice. Try donating something that would help his channel, make him grow. I appreciate that, man. I really do appreciate it. I just wanted to do this because I was going to watch this stupid interview anyways, okay? I just thought, might as well just go live on it. I've been talking about going live for a long time. Now it's just the perfect opportunity. Got my computer back and all that stuff. Finally, this is something else I wanted to bring up. We'll go back to the interview. Don't worry about it. We'll get there when we get there. Back, if you guys have been here for a while, back in the day, what was that? Summer of 2021, okay? Trevor Bauer stuff was popping off, and if you don't know my stance on that, just peek my stance whenever it comes to any of these Me Too cases. Pretty much the exact same stuff. I was doing some coverage and stuff like that, getting pretty decent views, at least for the time at the size of the channel. I had something like 510. Ended up getting a few hundred subscribers off of that issue that I'm still quite passionate about. Trevor's over in Japan. He signed with Japan? Yeah, he signed with Japan. He's going to go over there and just have like a sub-1 ERA. He's going to blow the fucking backs out of those Japanese hitters in pretty much 4A baseball. So you get a Cy Young Award winner who's, 31 years old to go over there? He's going to set some records. Regardless, there were a couple of comments. Taking a look at some of the comments, of getting so much interaction on those videos, it's just impossible to deal with all of the comments all the time, even back a couple years ago. Looking at that stuff, and the guys were pointing out, it's like, you do really good work. I just can't share your content. I've been getting some complaints beforehand, before all of this stuff, and it's like, you swear too much. It's like, I understand, I talk the way that I talk, and if you don't like it, I understand. If you want to just listen in the background, that's totally fine when you don't have kids around. Me talking to kids, I got a healthy respect for kids. It's just, stay over there for the time being, okay? So if you don't want to hear if you don't want to hear a loud, braggadocious man from northern Alberta yell and scream the F word as loud as possible, I totally get it. So I was just like, yeah, okay. I responded to the comment. It's like, okay, yeah, I understand that you don't want to share the content or anything like that. If you just come back, hey man, I'm more than happy on that one. And he's like, no, that has nothing to do with it. It's you only have 504 subscribers. Fuck does that have to do with anything? And then also been listening to, and I would highly recommend the Fresh and Fit panel that they just had. They had this big round table that was there, and they talked a lot about social proof. Social proof, the concept, it's an evolutionary biology concept where, framed in the context of that, it's like, okay, it's easier to attract more attractive women if you're in the company of attractive women. And it's like, okay, that kind of makes sense because it just shows that you're a good bet. It's the same thing with a wedding ring, right? Okay, you put on a wedding ring or something like that. You already know that, okay, if you're good enough for one lady, that just shows that you have value already there. So if you want to extrapolate that out to YouTube in general, if only 500 people decide to press the subscribe button on somebody, is there something wrong with them? Maybe it's just a new channel. I don't really need to waste my time. I can just go get a nice, highly produced piece of content over at ESPN, Sportsnet, Fox Sports 1, one of those things. They'll generally give me the ideas, but taking a chance on a smaller channel, even now, and that's why I've kind of waited as long as I have in order to stream. It's mostly just to get that social proof up. Like having a 1,000 next to your name gives you a lot more credibility. Even if you're the same dude at the end of the day, it makes it seem a little bit more acceptable to tune in. Okay, so I appreciate it as always, man. And yeah, man, any support, you guys tuning in, I really didn't anticipate. I thought I might get 10 people tuning in on this one, but the fact that there's just about 20 tuning in, it's double my expectations.
There, because where I came from, I didn't know if you're Republican, Democrat, but definitely like, God, country, those basic things. When I got there, you had a lot of militant leftism. One of Yale's mottos is for God, for country, for Yale, but you get in the classroom, no way. I mean, it was very anti-religion, particularly Christianity, and very anti-Americanism, and really adopting a lot of the left-wing mantras of the day. And
I definitely do believe him on this one. Sorry, we should be listening to more of the interview, but whatever, man. Just to add additional context. Where did all this politically correct stuff start? Just put a timeline in your head. Was it during the Obama administration? Well, that's really, really where it started to sink in a little bit and gave them an inch. They took a mile. Talking about leftists, of course. But the first time that it really, really peaked up was definitely during the 90s. I think that's when Ron was in a university. I'd have to go ahead and double check that to begin with. But yeah, the fact that it was all gestating in the university campuses, it's funny, man. It's funny. I don't know if I showed that or not, but it really doesn't much matter. The quartering. You guys might like him. You might watch him or whatever. Okay. Nothing bad against the guy. I just think that he has horrific takes when it comes to certain things, and he's been on this crusade. He's not accepting this gigantic L. It's just like, fucking hold the L, dude. Okay, you have a bad take when it comes to kids and drag time story hour. Okay, and then the right thinking that making that an issue is definitely not it's not the best use of our time. The fuck, man, is. If you don't stop it there, if you don't launch the counterfire against it, they're just going to continue to press forward, because that same mentality was the reason that all of those terrible ideas didn't stay within the confines of the university campuses. Okay, all of your critical race theory, all of your, as it originally started, PC, fucking having a brain fart right now. Lord have mercy. Politically correct. There we go. See, I've been talking too much. It's already been an hour, for Christ's sakes, and y'all have been here for that? Holy, I appreciate that. Anyways, all of those additional, all that soft language, the perversion of language, it was all started in those English departments, those studies department, gender studies, African American studies. That's where it all fomented, and then after decades and decades in human resource departments, decades and different positions as well, they started to cultivate their message because nobody nipped it in the bud. And it's like the way that should have been addressed to begin with is, you're here to learn. Fuck your feelings. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as long as you get the message. Who gives a fuck the way that it's delivered? Oh, wow.
I kind of rebelled against that because I'm like, wait a minute, I'm proud to be an American. I wouldn't be here if I lived in any other country,
catch you later,
perhaps. Man. And so this is something that I rejected. And then by the time I got to Harvard, I was already set. They weren't going to change me.
What's extraordinary is to watch the way campus sort of ideology has gone. I mean, if it was bad then, it's immeasurably worse now. This woke ideology has got a grip, not just in America, but in the UK and around the world. What do we do about this? I mean, when students are basically conditioned to think that there's only one way of thinking.
Yo, Brian, that is 1,000% true. And yeah, I've been over on Rumble. All of my videos, I think maybe not the first couple of months that I was uploading content to YouTube, all of it's over there. Even the stuff that was taken down. And now over on the weekends, like I've merged together my secondary channel where I just do a bunch of health and resistance training and a bunch of breakdowns like that. I put that over there at the exact same time because that channel's been under the attack. The Matrix is the tech. Nah, it's just YouTube stringent policies when it comes to, a certain injection into your arm that we're making vague allusions to. Have those going over there. And then some of those other borderline pieces of content that YouTube might be snatching up into the future, those are going over there on the weekend, the legacy stuff and shit like that. But yeah, I'm over on Rumble. I just need to get the live stream going over there. And then also, locals, we'll figure out locals. All in due time, though. It's a one-man op at the end of the day. So yeah. What else was that? Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, I was going to make mention of what Brian just said. Yeah, I've noticed that as well.
That to me is, you're heading towards a kind
especially
of
totalitarianism.
It's actually dangerous for society that they're not challenged with other views.
And it's not good for them because when they get into the real world, their assumptions have never been questioned. You should want your assumptions questioned. A university is about pursuing truth. It's about rigor and academic integrity and giving people the foundation so they can think for themselves and be citizens of the republic, not to impose ideology. In Florida, we're actually doing something about it. I just appointed a bunch of conservative trustees to New College in Sarasota. They've recategorized the mission to being a classical liberal arts university, and we're working with all of our state universities to ensure that they're not imposing ideology through the bureaucracy. We want there to be free speech on campus. We want the professors to come from a wide variety of viewpoints. You can't have every professor having the same leftist dogma in the class. That's not good education, and it doesn't serve the best interest of the state of Florida.
There was one professor.
I just want to know, what are the measures in place after those trustees that you put there, okay? What's the succession plan? Once those people retire, move on to greener pastures, what is stopping the infiltration of the social justice, whatever the hell you want to call it, the people that are graduating with those? Oh, all you need is a master's degree in order to sign up. What are they getting a master's degree in? Is it anything in science, technology, engineering, or math? Fucking not. Probably one of the social sciences in order to just, I got my degree and now I got $250,000 in student debt and I'm just going to take a job that's like $50,000 a year. But it's what I like to do. It gives me a good work-life balance. That's all that I'm really looking for at the end of the day. The people that just move in and they can't make enough money in order to pay off their debt in a timely manner. And then what do they end up calling for? Oh my God, the government needs to come in. They need to bail me out because it's like we're just not getting equal pay for equal work. You think somebody teaching a bunch of fucking stupid, I got a vagina, therefore I matter, and I can study it for 4 years. You think that that's worth the exact same much as motherfuckers putting, yellow jacket 8-inch pipe into the fucking ground? Yeah, I don't fucking think so, dude.
Professor in America, I can't remember where he was, but it was quite extraordinary. He for 25 years, he'd done a lecture all the time about the use of offensive language. And as part of the lecture, he would use offensive language to illustrate what he was talking about. And then a bunch of very woke, hyped up students complained that he was using offensive language, and he got fired for using offensive language in a lecture about the dangers of using offensive language. And at that point, I realized the world had literally gone nuts.
Well, so when we did the New College thing, there were professors from all across the country contacting some of our new trustees saying, how do I get down there? And these are not all right-wingers. A lot of them are Democrats, but they see this really hostile environment. It's a very intellectually impressive environment, and it's like you're walking on eggshells, that you could lose your job by making like some verbal faux pas. That is not the road that we want to go down, and it's almost like some of the wokesters, you will pay a bigger price by offending wokeism than if you commit like serious crimes.
Right.
Other than that, how is that something that makes any sense?
Right. I mean,
if you don't understand that concept and the fact that it is a religion that all of these people genuflect at, okay, they have their different cardinals of wokeness, if you want to call it. He's really just checking off every, neocon checkbox at this point in time. They have the different people that they pray to. They got their femininity icons. They got their boss babe icons. They've got their, different BIPOC icons as well. The fact that he just realizes, oh my God, if you offend their ideology, they'll just come right after you. But then at the exact same time, they're going to say that Islam is a violent religion. You just need to you need to curtail that. Fucking yuck.
Lost a job because I disbelieved Meghan Markle.
There you go.
With her claims of racism against the royal family. I said, I don't believe it. So I had to leave my job. I mean, it was completely insane when you think about it. Yeah. Now I'd be fired for believing it.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
I mean, it's true.
Although I'll tell you though, my book beat print. His book had come out earlier, #1, and then when I became number
knocked him off, I know.
I was higher than Prince Harry.
We're all very grateful. What do you make of those two? Do you have a view of them?
I don't. I mean, I think that I really respected the Queen. I mean, I think she was really elegant, and I think her stoicism, and I think it was really good. As the younger generations, it's a little bit more mixed. I mean, that's just the reality.
Are they annoying?
I think for some they are. I mean, look, I'm not involved in that, but I just kind of focus on. But I think for some Americans they can be.
You had a choice when you left Harvard, which was to take big money and go into relatively easier work, I guess, than what you chose to do. But instead you wanted to serve in the Navy. That's a big moment for you, that decision. Why did you decide to do that?
Well, a lot of that was, in the wake of 9/11. The world had changed. I was growing up in like the 90s in high school and then in college, graduated before 9/11. Our country didn't have a care in the world. The Cold War was over, there was prosperity, and people weren't even thinking of that. And then when
you might be wondering what I'm checking out. I'm just looking for Ron DeSantis' book. Like, when was it released? It was just February 28th. Not even a month ago. You want to know what its rankings are right now? Okay, #1 in United States biographies. That's good. Has beaten out a couple of other political tomes as well. #2 in criminal law enforcement. He used to be prosecutor. That totally makes sense. #3 in United States politics. What's ahead of him in United States politics? Okay, manufacturing consent to the political economy, and stupid Barack Obama's book. But this motherfucker's book, okay, this stupid the courage to be free. For me to get it, $43. Like, this is a $35 book, bruh. It's only 288 pages. All right then, fucking sweet advancement deals. Oh yeah, and overall, when it comes to books, 2096th, bruh. This shit ain't lighting. The only thing that's lighting on fire is the fucking book burning mobile. Holy.
Towers fell. It changed my outlook, and I know we didn't have a draft or any of that, but I was like, look, I should be willing to help out here.
I think I might have missed that. Okay, he's talking about 9/11. Was he? Did you peek an old episode of Family Guy when Lois Griffin was running and campaigning? It's like 9/11. Fuck off.
I'll have time to do other things in my life, and so we ended up volunteering. We did the Navy, and at that time I didn't know what I was in store for, but I ended up doing a lot of stuff around the country and around the world, including being in Iraq, and it was really, really valuable experience. I mean, when you wear the cloth of your country, that's meaningful service, and the people that you meet along the way are great, but there's just a lot. Jack Kennedy said people can look back on their life with a great deal of satisfaction and say, I served in the U.S. Navy, and I agree with them.
You know what else John Kennedy said? What happened to my skull? It's a beautiful day for a drive with the drop down. Where's Marilyn?
Where were you on 9/11?
I was, I think I had just graduated college and was kind of not a care in the world, and all of a sudden, boom, it happened. And so I had already been either accepted or planning on going to law school, and that's when I decided to start looking into some other career choices.
How the fuck? Okay, maybe I have a little bit too much of an obsession with the United States politics. It's pretty important. Wherever the United States go, the rest of the world follows. So, kind of makes sense. And Canada has a disproportionate amount of caring about the United States. That's a grammatical nightmare of a statement. So, just forgive me for a second. I remember exactly. I remember the house I was in when we woke up first thing in the morning on 9/11. I remember that day at school. I remember being 11 years old, going in, and then at the end of the day figuring out as somebody's coming into the classroom, it's Osama bin Laden. Who? What? Owasa bin Hubin? Yeah, that's the guy who's behind everything. He's taking credit for it. He's got videos out. You can watch them when you get home. What? Okay. And this guy's like, oh, I think I graduated college and I didn't really care all that much about things. The fuck, man? I was 11 at the time. This is a full-grown man.
That moment was a pivotal moment in modern American history in many ways, unleashed a whole series of consequences. Would you have done things any differently if you'd been running America at the time? Obviously, we're 20 years on from the Iraq War, for example, which many viewed as an illegal conflict potentially, but certainly one that created a lot of turmoil, the rise of ISIS and so on. Would you have invaded Iraq?
So I think in hindsight, it's very easy to make these things. So clearly we had to go to Afghanistan, knock off the Taliban, and decimate al-Qaeda. I would not have stayed in Afghanistan for what we did. I mean, the idea that we were going to turn that into a democracy, it's just a different culture, and they're organized differently. And then I think in Iraq, what I saw there was, you said democracy when Saddam was removed. These are people cozying up with the Iranians. And so we now have a situation where Iraq is basically an Iranian satellite, and Iran has probably been our most significant adversary, certainly in that region, since the Shah fell. So in hindsight, I mean, I honor everybody's service because I think they did a lot of great things. But in hindsight, has the Middle East gotten better as a result of that? I think Iran's gotten stronger as a result of that conflict.
So would you have invaded Iraq? That was the question that was asked. But then on top of that as well, those are the same people who were giving the advice to George W. Bush that you idolize. So yeah, red flag? Red flag.
Some time at Guantanamo Bay, obviously a very contentious entity in many ways.
Here it's lovely
Barack
this
Obama
time of year.
Campaigned in 08-09 to close it and didn't, still open today. Clearly a lot of very bad people went there, but we now know there were some who were detained for over a decade and were innocent people. You were there in a legal capacity. Did you have any qualms about what was going on there, about holding people that long without trial?
Well, I think that there should have been military commissions. I did support that. But what I saw, because there was a media narrative about they were being mistreated in Gitmo, what I saw was basically a professionally run prison. And there was different kind of categories. So the Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's going to be in a maximum security. Some of these other guys were open air, play soccer all day, who were viewed as less of a threat. But what they're trying to figure out is, okay, if we release this person back to Afghanistan, are they going to engage in terrorism against? And that's hard to know definitively. So I think they tended to err on the side of caution. Now, I will say these detainees would all say, they all said they're Quran salesmen. Every one of them was a Quran salesman. And that clearly wasn't the case either.
But did you?
Well, it's the most popular religion on earth. You shill out a couple of books there, okay? And also, Qurans, prayer mats, those little hats as well. I'll make not those little hats, but the little hats. But he's also not talking about speaking up against anything that's going on. And then also, what is there? The Ghislaine Maxwell, little suite where they could just go outside and play soccer all day long. It's this is the most hardcore black site place where you stick all of the terrorists, and those guys are out there in the yard for 18 hours a day if they want to be. It's something else, man, that I just pick out. It might fly over other people's head. It might not be an issue at all whatsoever. I'm just also noticing that whenever he sees an injustice, as he'd like to couch it in, he's not the first person to ever stick up. It's oh yeah, no, in hindsight, yeah, definitely would have been a bad idea, but would you have pushed for it? Well, they had tubes and might have access to uranium because Iran's right there, and we could need another forever war at the drop of a hat.
Do you have any issues as a lawyer with people being held that long without any trial?
But it's a tough thing when you have a situation with terrorism and war, because they're not a nation state, and how you can't try them, I think, in a civilian court. So you really need military commissions. I actually thought I was going to be involved in military commissions, and they really just sputtered. They didn't get off the ground. They should have had those up and running, and it's some due process, but it isn't what you would get in a civilian trial.
Maybe you're just a bad lawyer. Oh well, sucks to suck.
I posted a big deep dive on this today, actually, about what you did out there. One of the things they said was that you authorized the use of force feeding.
That's not true. Yeah, that's not true. Yeah, any of the stuff that people
just to finish it, force feeding the detainees who were on hunger strike. Was that true?
So I was a junior officer. I didn't have authority to authorize anything. There may have been a commander that would have done feeding if someone was going to die, but that was not something that I would have even had authority to do.
So that's wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
What did you learn? You then went to Fallujah in 2007. That was the year of the surge. Yep. I think more American troops died that year than in any year since World War II, I think. So really incredibly dangerous and a lot going on. Yeah. You were there as a legal counsel to the commander of Navy SEAL Team 1. And obviously the SEALs weren't as well known as they are, I guess, now. But an incredibly demanding job, I think, under a lot of pressure. What did you learn about yourself while you were doing that?
Well,
he's a lawyer. What the fuck? He sat in an office. Like, Christ almighty.
Interesting. So, we had folks all across Al Anbar province. So, like, the headquarters was Fallujah. We had Ramadi, Al Assad, Haditha, Hit, all these places, and there were operations every night. And they tend to work at night, and so you're just crazy out one day after another for a 6.5 month period. But at the end of the day, I mean, honestly, I kind of felt honored to be there because these were some of our best people that I was able to kind of hitch a wagon with, and they were making a good difference. By the time we left, there were not Americans.
The hitch a wagon. That's just a perfect analogy for his entire career. But you also notice how he doesn't have any specific stories. Yo, this guy's a desk jockey. Come on now.
Dying in Al Anbar province anymore. I mean, Al Qaeda in Iraq had been crushed, the Anbar awakening had happened, and most of the deaths at that point, probably 90%, were in the Shia areas with the Iranian-backed forces. So it was a successful deployment, not just our deployment, but the Marines and the Army who were there during that time.
Did you come under any personal attack?
Not anything special. I mean, I would travel from different areas, but what they would do is, like if you fly in a helicopter, they would do pitch black at night so that they couldn't, shoot it down with an RPG, but they would not go in the daytime for transport because they were concerned about that. And then the other risk was just being in convoys, and they had done the IEDs at the time, and I never had any of that happen to me, thankfully.
Still quite an unnerving experience.
Well, you just don't know. I mean, because the thing is, we could defeat them on the battlefield without even blinking an eye, but that wasn't how they were fighting. They were fighting to try to say, if you're...
There's a lot of blinking eyes around you, except for they blink and then they don't come back up. Fuck, this is boring.
Going convoying from Ramadi to Fallujah, we're going to try to blow up your convoy. And so it's just kind of like, okay, if the number's called, the number's called.
I want to talk to you about another war, Ukraine. I was quite surprised, I'll be honest with you, by what you said last week about Ukraine, describing it as a territorial dispute. It's picked up.
That was a base take. Now, this is something that I heard, and did I reference it in the beginning of one of the videos? I'm pretty sure I did. Because, yeah, his original take when it came to this, before, like the roves and the bushes showed up, was like, no, we need to have this forever war going on in Ukraine, so you need to have a stronger stance, and you need to call Putin a war criminal. It is a regional dispute. It has nothing to fucking do with anything. But, of course, if you want to use it as a proxy war to drain the resources of Russia, and then by proxy end up pushing them into the loving arms of China, which is, all of the space of Russia, the economy of China, and if India wants to get serious about this shit, that could be a problem. But, of course, we're a few steps away from that. Those alliances right now, as they stand, you can suffocate those in the crib. I wouldn't recommend that, though. That's a felony.
A lot of blowback, as you know. Only surprised because of your military background and because you were on record as helping Ukraine after the invasion of Crimea. Do you regret actually just using that one phrase?
Well, I think that
it's been territorial dispute.
I think it's been mischaracterized. Obviously, Russia invaded that. That was wrong. They invaded Crimea and took that in 2014. That was wrong. What I'm referring to is kind of where the fighting is going on now, which is that western border or eastern border region, Donbass, and then Crimea. And you have a situation where Russia has had that. I don't think legitimately, but there's a lot of ethnic Russians there. So that's some difficult fighting. And so whatever, the conflict area, that's what I was referring to. And so it wasn't that I thought Russia had a right to that. And so if I should have made that more clear, I could have done it. But I think the larger point is, okay, Russia has not shown the ability to take over Ukraine, to topple the government, or certainly to threaten NATO. That's a good thing. They've been weakened.
That's another thing that you also pointed out there as well, Ron, is that there's a lot of ethnic Russians that were there. Vladimir Putin, for everything that you want to call him, we're over here on YouTube right now, but for everything that you want to say about him, he gives a fuck about the Russian people, whether or not they're in the confines of Russia or if they're over in Ukraine. If he wants to drone strike those motherfuckers, if he just wants to carpet bomb the place and reign over Ukraine that's been glassed, he could definitely do that. He has all the capabilities to do that. Now, we're going in just a little bit more stealthily when it comes to this stuff, because you take a look at their casualty rates against the combatant casualties versus civilian casualties. It's nothing even approximating anything that happened in Baghdad or Kabul whenever, the United States forces came in and it's like all guns blazing. The technology at the time is probably equivalent to what the Russians have, because they don't have the lasers in the skies, okay? They don't have the satellite aiming technology that the United States and NATO does, so they got to be a little bit more crude about it. That's why you don't see the constant aircrafts going over top of all these places all the time. It's more foot soldiers, clearing out a place, liberating it, whatever the fuck they want to call it from that perspective. But in the grand scheme of things, man, I'm adding more context to this stuff than Ron really is. Anyways.
Now have the fighting in those areas. I just don't think that's a sufficient interest for us to escalate more involvement. I would not want to see American troops involved there. But the idea that I think somehow Russia was justified, and that's nonsense.
And I was in Ukraine interviewing President Zelensky last summer. What I was struck by was the utter resolve of the people there,
is that allowed?
which I suspect would be exactly the same if somebody invaded any part of America, which was not to give Putin an inch, not an inch. In fact, they wanted Crimea back. And I think they would take issue with it being categorized.
Yeah, so like I say, I think they have the right to that territory. I just think that's the source of the conflict. It's in those regions, which there's likely going to continue to be a lot of conflict on that going forward. So if I could snap my fingers, I'd give it back to Ukraine 100%. But the reality is, what is America's involvement in terms of escalating with more weapons, and certainly ground troops, I think would be a mistake. So that was the point I was trying to make. But Russia was wrong to invade. They were wrong to take Crimea.
What's your view of Putin?
Look, I think he's got grand ambitions. I think he's hostile to the United States. But I think the thing that we've seen is he doesn't have the conventional capability to realize his ambitions. And so he's basically a gas station with a bunch of nuclear weapons. And so for us, one of the things we could be doing better is utilizing our own energy resources in the United States. We could be permitting natural gas pipelines from Marcellus, doing a lot in Alaska. That's where he gets all his power. And obviously, he's influenced Europe by having so much energy. So the way to hit Putin is to hit him with energy. But I do think you look back, all the defense analysts and me in the past, we overestimated his conventional capability. This has been a huge blunder for him, huge costs, and we'll see what ends up happening with his longevity and power. But this has been a loss for them.
There is
very interesting. Like, okay, you could tell. I was listening to that entire little diatribe, and I was also trying to figure out, okay, how would Trump deliver that? Remember when he said that Russia's like a gas station with nukes? That was a pretty good line. Okay, he couldn't realize his potential because of the material insufficiencies that Putin would have in this war. Then he can also peek whatever he's doing with his head down there. It's all very interesting, okay? Like, he doesn't quite know. He could, of course, fall into this. He's only 44 years old, Ron, at this point in time, but his instincts, man, you can't teach instincts. And the fact that, he really didn't capitalize and drive home the good line, that's what separates him and Trump even more so than anything else. But then also, he's just kind of flat wrong because nobody wants to address, because what did Putin have right at the beginning? I have to go back and take a look at some of those old videos, but I think it was a 5-point plan. It was chase out all of the Azov boys. If you know what it is, you know what it is. Allow the Donbass region to vote for their own sovereignty if they want to be with Ukraine, if they want to be with Russia. Same with Crimea as well. There are a couple of other points there as well. Nothing was ever spoke about Kiev, taking back Kiev. Nothing was ever spoke about couple of other what the fuck else was he alleging? Oh yeah. It's not like he wants to glass everything. He gets everything so close. Putin cares about the ethnic Russians that were there. Why didn't you just glass everything? He doesn't have, fucking John Bolton chirping in his ear. It's like, those nukes aren't going to fire themselves. We need to send in the MiGs. It's like, shut up, John. Fucking comb that mustache, you creep.
A move now to hold him accountable for war crimes, bombing maternity hospitals, and genocidal activity in parts of Ukraine.
All of those hospitals that by de facto, the fact that Zelensky right at the beginning, I did a video on that. I forget the exact same time frame, but he enlisted everybody from the age of 18 all the way to 80 into military activity. Just sent them directly boots on the ground. Okay, so by sending off all of the women and children, you make the entire country a military operation. You can't commit war crimes like that if you just go in and straight attack all of those facilities, all of those buildings, all of those government controlled or government enlisted buildings become military facilities. You can't just because something says it's a maternity hospital. How many kids and women are in there? All right, 0. How many enlisted soldiers with rifles and helmets and C4, whatever the fuck else they have? I don't know, just a bunch of frozen pierogies to throw at everybody. I don't fucking know, but yeah, that's a military building. Okay, the exact same thing would happen. If you turn a liquor store in Canada, okay? You just staff it with a bunch of soldiers that are there and that they're just ready to pull the trigger whenever they need to or whenever they're desired to. That is no longer a civilian facility. That is a military facility. No war crimes. No war crimes. As for the other ones, though, the Ukrainian soldiers that I don't know if you've seen these videos that are circulating on social media, where they take this weird green liquid and then they pour it over the people that they saran wrapped around light standards. It sounds odd until you see it, and then it looks absurd and subhuman, realistically. So if you want to talk war crimes, you're talking about the wrong side.
Ukraine, wiping out whole cities, Mariupol and others. Would you support that?
I mean, I think he is a war criminal. This ICC, we have not done that in the United States because we're concerned about our soldiers or people being brought under it. So I don't know about that rubric, but I do think that he should be
Nord Stream, good one.
How does it end the Ukraine war, do you think?
That's the thing. I mean, I think I think those regions and the border in Crimea, I think are likely to be a stalemate for quite some time. And unfortunately, a lot of people will end up dying if that's the case. But I do not think it's going to end with Putin being victorious. I do not think the Ukrainian government is going to be toppled by him, and I think that's a good thing.
One of the issues about it was, well, people were saying, okay, well, what happens if China decides to invade Taiwan, which may well happen in the next couple of years? If they do, is that also a territorial dispute?
The weakest aspect, just to give my opinion on this stuff. Okay, I've done a little bit of research into it, not nearly as extensive as the Russia-Ukraine stuff. China's military is the second or third largest military after the losses of Russia. It's probably completely and fully second position. Its weakest aspect is its newly enshrined navy. Like, it can't get over to Taiwan that easily, and it only has a very small amount of aircraft capacity. So Taiwan's, knock wood, Taiwan's all right for the time being. It can't get enough troops over there. China can't get enough troops over there to fully take it over. So it's just another one of those oogie boogie, oh, China's going to invade any moment. Not really, bro. Not really.
The thing with territory is just that's where the fighting was. There's not as fighting on the western side, and you have situations where there's ethnic Russians there, and it's a messy situation. But Russia did not have a right to go into Crimea or to go in February of 2022, and that should be clear.
And if China did invade Taiwan?
That would be aggression. Absolutely, it would be aggression.
And America should get involved in that?
So I would say that Taiwan is a strong ally of the United States. I think that's a critical interest. I think it's for us, but also for our key allies like Japan and South Korea. And I think overall, the number one issue that we face internationally is checking the growth and the rise of China. They're much more powerful, I think, than Putin and Russia are. And they really represent the biggest threat that we've seen to our ability to lead since the Soviet Union.
I would very much disagree, but then again, he also didn't answer the question. Great political answer. Terrible when it comes to substance. China, how many ghost cities do you know of in Russia? I'm just asking, just throwing that out there. China's a paper tiger. That's why it needs all of those alliances. Russia's going to be fine. If it wants to be the quiet kid off in the corner, if it wants to go out there and be Sigma country, if it wants to, man, it has more than enough resources to take care of itself. It can go out there, it can sell its wares wherever the fuck it wants, man. China's the one who has the economy, but they're also sitting on this population that's about to get so old and so fucking dead because they're about to collapse. And that's why the Belt and Road Initiative is so powerful. Just take a look at all of the development that they're doing over in Africa, just for proof of concept on that, because if you want to take a look at birth rates, if you want to get even more granular when it comes to this stuff, Africa, they're pretty good at a bunch of different things, and they also have a bunch of natural resources. But what they're really good at is fucking and producing populations. In Nigeria, I think by 2050 is supposed to be the third largest population on Earth. China, I think it falls out of the top 10. I'd have to refresh my memory. We've already been going for an hour and a half. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to everybody still in the chat. Yo, man, especially like Long Reach 1, Knights of Nye, Brian Karstens, and Jermeet K, and then, of course, I think he's long since been gone, but shout out my boy Quetz there. Everybody who's tuning in, everybody, even if you're just lurking back there, I appreciate every single one of you. It's Saturday night. You could be anywhere that you want, but you're here with me and everybody else that's in the chat. Feel free to hop in, man. It's hey, man, the water's pretty warm. Go out and do that. We probably still got at least, I'm going to say about a half an hour because we're going to go with a half an hour, I'd imagine.
Would you ban TikTok?
I would. I think so.
Would you?
I think so. I mean, I think
from everybody in America.
I think it's a security risk. I think they are harvesting so much data on our citizens. There's a whole bunch of other apps
gave my
and stuff that
thoughts
are out
on
there. And
this
honestly, Piers, I got young kids. I don't
today.
want our kids on some of this stuff. It's not healthy for
You
them.
haven't seen the cute dog TikToks?
I've seen that, but you know what the CCP does? The TikTok in China is sanitized. It's more wholesome. Here, they're putting in a lot of bad stuff too. So I think it's had a corrosive impact, but that in and of itself wouldn't be enough. What's enough though is how they're harvesting that to use against the American people.
You're a father of
that's something that I want to do with the streams going forward. I was going to save this to the end, but just as a little bit of a heads up, taking a look at Chinese TikTok, I know that sounds a little bit weird, and then comparing it to what's going on domestically, I think the comparing and the contrasting on that would be pretty ridiculous. But then also runs a bunch of different risks. But just paying attention, especially like you can learn a lot from what Steve Jobs, like the former CEO of Apple, who kind of committed the weirdest self-oof, okay, because he had a very treatable, and I understand that it is pancreatic cancer after all, but it was like stage 1, and he didn't want to do any medical treatment in order to cure something that even the doctors that were looking at him was like, if he would have taken any preventative steps, he would have found a way to get around that. But he wouldn't let his kids have an iPad, wouldn't let them use iPhones. There's something to that, man. Success leaves clues, and so does failure. Okay, what are all the what are the accomplished, successful people doing? What are they allowing their kids to consume? Take a look at what they're doing. And then what are your rank and file idiots out there doing? Just allowing their kids to just raise themselves on the different screens and they don't give a shit about? Pay attention.
3 young kids. I've got 4 kids, but they're all a bit older. One's 11 now, the other's in their 20s. But social media, it seems to me to have been a real double-edged sword. A lot of great comes out of it, the ability to communicate and everything else. A lot of bad stuff too is coming with it.
I wouldn't be here without it.
Social media, do you think?
Well, it's really tough. And when some of this, I think back when I was in Iraq, I had to use a satellite phone to call Casey. I had no FaceTime. I had no ability to do any of that. It just didn't exist then. So now you have the ability to connect with people. I mean, there is some huge benefits. But these kids, I think that they get mired into this. I think there's a lot of bad stuff that go over there. And what we try to do with our kids, they're 6, 4, and 2, and we say, like, you need to be outside, playing around, reading books, and doing all that. So I think in terms of the youth, I think the social media has had a net negative on that. One of the things I propose, which some of these people criticize me for in schools, is, a teacher should have the right that students should put their phones in the front of the class, sit there and learn, then they can grab the phone.
But I agree with this.
Yeah, I mean, like, why do you want them on the phone?
I agree with most of the things you're doing in schools.
Okay. Yeah.
I agree with that. Man, like cell phone in the classroom. Like even when I was growing up, like I didn't get a cell phone until 12th grade. I think it was something like that. It was just a little flip phone, and everybody was just texting because it still had the buttons back then. You can pretty much figure out, and you could underneath the desk without looking at it, you could text out a message. But it is the moment that the black screen came out, it was like you couldn't really functionally do that. So yeah, just having them off or something like that, just having an EMP if anything's on, it just immediately fries the phone. That's how far I'd go, but we're different people. What did he say about social media? He said something, net negative for children. It's interesting, man. It's interesting when it comes to kids. I think the overall, this might be a little bit different. You might not have thought this would be my take on it, but social media in general, it's a great way to disseminate information if you have the mind tuned to it. Yeah, for kids though, here I am talking about what should be. For anybody over the age of 18, yeah, it's a net benefit. As a net negative though, how can you properly take it away from anybody? Because we're in a world now, it's like, okay, cool. If you want to have a restriction against that, it's like the same way. It's like if you want to see graphic, if you want to go on the old ogreish.com, it's like, are you over 18? You click the box and away you go. It's not like they're going to take a blood sample or you have to hold up a driver's license, for fuck's sakes. Shit's not going to work like that. How do you go around that? It's like 1 hour a day the US CEO of TikTok puts for screen time on users under the age of 18. Well, guess what? Everybody just aged up real quickly who's got a TikTok account. It's like all of that shit, it's just surface level. And it's another one of those things. It looks good. It placates the soccer moms who are never going to vote Republican to begin with because they're the racists that are out there. You're fighting a losing battle. You're fighting a battle of should versus is. You've already seceded enough ground, dude.
Yeah.
I think it's because I've had 4 kids who've gone through school.
Yeah.
And you're like, why wouldn't you actually take their phones away?
Yeah.
Don't need phones
and it's just, you put them in a cubby or something. It's not like the school is going to like search their phone. You put it in a cubby, sit down, do your lesson, then take it. If you want to use it at recess or all that. But I definitely think more people that live their lives on those apps and those phones, that's not good for society.
And on sex education in school, What is your clear position on that now?
So what our position is basically, we don't want to be injecting sexuality and things like gender ideology in particularly the younger grades. And you do have places around this country where they will have kindergartners say, okay, declare what your gender is, or tell a student that they may have been born a boy, but maybe they're really a girl. That is totally inappropriate. I think these are things that parents should be taking the lead on as they deem appropriate, but that should not be imposed in the school system.
Did you ever think you'd be alive?
It's interesting because over the past couple of topics, it's like, I totally agree with Ron. But then I also set this up in the beginning. Like I said before, I didn't watch this interview beforehand or anything like that. Ron crushes cans. Okay, he's that heavyweight boxer. He was let's just say, I won't go that far though. He's the heavyweight champion who handpicks and hand selects his issues because he knows he can beat them. And he does a really good job at it. It's a first round knockout, first couple of seconds, man. He's in there, right hook, away she goes. I got nothing to really complain. It's like, okay, Ben Shapiro, okay, even the most neocon of neocon that's out there. We're going to have a lot in common, quite a bit in common. But it's just when it comes to understanding that conservatism hasn't really conserved a whole hell of a lot over the past 20 years. Like, you take a look at the island that you were on beforehand as somebody who's grown up as a conservative, as somebody, whatever the fuck you want to call it in today's day and age. My mindset has basically been my mindset since for as long as I've been politically aware, if you want to go down that road. Just take a look at the other guys, and they just want to try to win with decency, win with honor. Your opposition is out there burning down cities. Shit don't fucking work that way. You gotta change the tactics with the times. Just because you think fighting with honor is a full suit of armor with a big sword isn't gonna stop the motherfucker with a machine gun coming down the street and an Abrams tank. You're fucked if you don't evolve. And that's where we have our disconnects.
In a world where a 6'4" former male swimmer could suddenly identify as female and start demolishing women born to female bodies in competitive swimming, for example.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Penn.
It just seems...
After spending 3 years on the men's team...
Unsuccessful.
And then switching there, and then you have the situation, you have that famous picture of the swimmer with then the three women, and they're so much smaller. The runner-up on that was actually from Sarasota, and I did a proclamation from the state saying she was the rightful winner. She was the best women's 500-yard freestyle swimmer. So it's taking away opportunities from girls and women athletes. In Florida, we basically said, look, we're going to go based on biology, and we're just going to do that, and people can either like that or not, but we're not going to take away opportunities from these young girls.
Shout out for first loser. Oh, well.
I completely agree. I think it's a mad debate. Talking of
it's funny.
A young woman that you met on a golf range many years ago. So there you are, you're on a golf range, and you spy two things. One is there's a bucket of balls that you have, and there's this very beautiful woman.
She's like, I'd like to add two to those.
Turned out to be your wife.
Yeah.
You didn't know that. Now, she tells this story and says that actually she was looking over and eyeing with great covetousness your bucket of balls. Your version is that she was looking at you and eyeing you up. Have you reached an agreement about this?
So I thought she was looking at me. I really did. And we did have the balls, and so I used the balls as a way to start talking to her. But my view was like, look, what's the worst she can do? Not want to talk to me? I'm like, I am not letting this opportunity go. So we went over there, we started talking, we divvied up the balls, hit them, and then we went out after that, and kind of the rest is history. But I think, in fact, she was looking at the balls. I do think I was wrong, but you know what?
So you have a bunch of golf balls to thank for true love.
You do. And who would have thought that we both would have been there at the same time randomly on some random day in 2006. I'm just fresh into the Navy, and she was a local TV reporter at the time, and we just happened to hit it off.
When did you...
I want to respect everybody's time. I thank you all for being here for a long time, but we could go down for a very, very, very long time. The simp tendencies that's right there. He started out as a mark. He started out as a fucking wallet. It's a bucket of balls at a driving range, okay? She was there, okay? Oh, she was just there. She was just this lovely little reporter that was down there, and she was eyeing up the bucket of balls. If she was actually doing that, she seen you walking in from the parking lot. It's like, I can attach myself to that motherfucker right there. That's why I don't like him. Intrinsically, man. Once you start to understand intersexual dynamics, once you take the red pill, whatever the fuck you want to call it, you can spot out simp tendencies. You can suss out blue pill nature out of people. It's one of those things that you're cursed to always see, and that's why that's why I can't hang around with blue pill simps anymore. But you already know my opinion when it comes to that shit, so I need not drag this out any further.
You know, this is the one for me.
I mean, I would say, like, pretty early, I was like, this is different. And, you know, I made sure to court her. Of course, I got mobilized to go to California, then Iraq, so we stayed together through all that. But I told myself, like, as soon
Do you think she was faithful?
as I get back from Iraq, I'm popping the question. And so we ended up doing that. And
how did you do that?
Oh, I took her to a nice little resort in Florida, and we kind of went out, and we were out on the balcony and just
I paid for everything. I treated her like a princess, and eventually, once I'm done in politics, she's going to leave my withered ass.
kind of dropped to the knee. And
You did?
asked
Bended
her-
knee?
Oh, yeah, of course.
So you took the knee, Governor?
Yeah, we did. That's the only time I take a knee is for that one. So, and she
And you had a ring?
had a nice ring, and everything was really good. And
Did she hesitate?
No.
Immediate yes.
Immediate, yeah. Well, I think she had let it be
CDR.
known that she was happy and that we were ready to go to the next level as well. So I don't think it was anything that was like a super shock, but it was good to get that one in the win column.
How many times would you say before that you'd been properly in love?
Oh, I don't think anything like this. I think that this was definitely unique for me.
And it's been
I've definitely been in love before, but if I say that, oh my God, I'm just going to lose everything in divorce.
great ever since?
I don't think I could have done any better in life. I mean, I really don't. Not just
Yo, you guys peek that? I don't think I could have done any better. He had another piece. He had another piece that was out there in the ether, and yeah, it turned him down. I can't say no for sure, but
to have a friend. You know, she gets more beautiful as she gets older, and we have
stop the cap.
3 wonderful kids. She's a great mother. She's a great first lady. I mean, she's really the whole package. And, you know, there's a picture that I have, 2019 inauguration, 2023, sitting at the desk, same pose. She's prettier in 23 than she was in 2019. And she had a kid. She went through 4 years of this nonsense, and she beat breast cancer.
Yeah.
And how do you end up being
Yeah, I know.
prettier after 4 years of that?
It's
She
really
finds a
nice.
way to do it.
When she got cancer, she talked very movingly about this in a campaign commercial for when you ran for governor in 2022. But she talked very emotionally about it and gave a real, like, heartfelt assessment of you. And I don't want to, you know, bring your blushes here, but she said, when I was diagnosed with cancer and I was facing the battle for my life, he was the dad who took care of my children when I couldn't. He was there to pick me off the ground when I literally couldn't stand.
Yo, this modeling shit. Like it's nice though. She overcame breast cancer, and I don't want to hold that against her at all. Of course, man, it's fantastic. Cause I know I'm pretty sure everybody here in the chat and everybody watching this in the future probably knows somebody who's withered away and died from cancer. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, man. Like, made my position known when it comes to that. But as for this modeling shit, would you guys be against me speeding this up just a little bit, moving up to $1.50, like seeing if we can make some time on this? Because I know we're about to get to the Trump stuff. We've already heard that, but I want to see if we're missing. Any of the additional context, because we went in pretty hard, and that fucking video got goddamn demonetized, and that pissed me off just because I dropped the "see you next Tuesday" on this dummy's head here for a second. But I see the chat moving a little bit. I'll take your guys' input, man. Like, I'm here for the long term, man. I'm just gonna have dinner after this. I just, broke my fast with my little protein shake. So whenever I'm done here, I'm gonna have dinner for the day and then just fucking call it quits. So if you guys are, yeah, okay, speed it up. Okay, shout out to you, Knight. Okay, yeah, so blue pilled, yeah, cucked. Boy, she is hot. Yeah. Gurmeet, I love you. That's fucking hilarious. We'll see what it sounds like here. I listen to all my shit. Like, here, just a little hack or something like that. Like, I listen to a bunch of podcasts and audiobooks and different roundtables and shit like that. I listen at 2 times speed, speed and a half. I just have everything on in the background. That's why I get great benefit, because you can see, yeah, you can kind of see it over there. I got YouTube Premium. I think it's as gay as YouTube is sometimes, it has incredible value. I use the music as well if I'm on a specifically difficult part of the run. I blast the Sabaton, the Powerwolf, got some Dragon Force on there as well, a bunch of different power metal acts. Okay, you get that. Okay, and you get all of the background play, which is actually free on Rumble, which is another reason why I'm using Rumble a lot, but they don't have the automatically, downgrade the quality that's out there. But Rumble's catching up, and once Rumble implements all of those changes and it's a dope-ass platform, I would definitely recommend over there, and I'd be rethinking my premium subscription. But listening to stuff at a speed and a half or 2 times speed, you can ingest a lot of knowledge because most people, they don't really talk all that fast, and you can basically get the gist of what they're saying off of a 2 times time and a half delivery. And just try to move it up a little bit further so that you're listening, reading more books, or that you're consuming more content, and that you're ruminating on different ideas. The little life hack for you. But let's see what this sounds like.
He was there to fight for me when I didn't have the strength to fight for myself.
That sounds fine to me.
When you watch that, because I don't think you'd seen it before.
I'll just share for you guys.
It went out.
No.
And you see your wife crying as she pays that kind of tribute to you. What did that make you feel?
Yo, Gurmeet, man.
For sickness and in health, good times and bad. I mean,
yeah,
that's
just
the job
yeah,
of a spouse.
okay, cool. Thanks, man.
And to have her thank me publicly like that was very heartwarming. I know it touched a lot of people throughout the state of Florida. And you're right, I didn't know what she was going to say because she asked me, I want to go over this. I said, don't worry about my filter. Don't listen to anything else. You just speak from your heart. So she kicked everybody out of the room when she filmed it, except the camera guy, and she just spoke from the heart. No script, no anything.
That's what's up,
and I think it told a lot of people about kind of what we've gone through as a family. You never want to see anyone go through something like that. But there is something a little bit more poignant when you have a young mother that's fighting for her life with these young kids, because no kid should lose a parent like that. And so that, I think, was a source of fight for her. It was a source of fight for me. And we just had such a great outpouring of support from the community that it did lift her spirits.
Did you fear that you may lose her?
So it's interesting. You always have that fear, but I'm a data guy. I went and looked it up. I said, you're going to beat it. She's like, and she didn't necessarily want to hear that because she was so scared.
Non-sequitur,
100%. But I'm like, I've looked at the data. I'm looking at the treatments. You're going to be okay. So I really felt confident, and the doctors had a plan. I talked to doctors all around the country, and I didn't even tell them what the plan was. I was like, okay, what do you recommend? And they all said do the things that we ended up doing. So I felt really, really comfortable. There was a big consensus from people all over the country that I talked to. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I absolutely thought she was going to beat it.
What was the lowest?
It's interesting. Okay, just a little bit to add to that, because, fair use and all that shit as well, to just add a little bit of context. He's trying to give the facade, because we also know the other statements that he's going to be making here later in here, how the Trump White House was tumultuous and there was a bunch of different problems that's in there. He's also trying to lay the groundwork that he's a good delegator. I don't know if he has all of his opinions completely fomented. Or I'd imagine he probably knew the questions that Piers Morgan was going to be asking, but he just laid it right there. I don't know if you guys caught that. I mean, again, I could be overthinking all this stuff, but hey, man, if I see a pattern, I've got to point it out.
Moment, do you think?
I think the chemotherapy. I mean, I think too. I think the beginning when we get because she went to the doctor, she felt something. The doctor cleared her. They did a physical exam, said that you didn't have anything. Don't worry. And like me, if a doctor said I'm okay, I would never think twice about it. She had a feeling that there was just something wrong, so she really fought to get a mammogram. And so a couple weeks later, we got it. I told her, I was like, you're fine. And then it came back. And so I think that was really, really difficult.
That's a jolt moment.
It really is, because it totally changes your life. It changes your family's trajectory. Everything all of a sudden is up for grabs. So I think that was one of the most difficult. And then just not knowing what to expect, especially before we saw a physician and one of the cancer doctors, we had no idea really what we were dealing with, apart from my kind of side research, and I'm pulling up stuff from like Mayo Clinic and researching. So then that was tough. And then I would say the chemotherapy, it saps you. I mean, it's just.
And actually each course can get progressively
and
more unpleasant, right?
It's putting like poison in your body, and to see someone that you love go through that, it was really.
Kind of like this interview at this point.
Really tough on her, but it's also just, you hate to see. It's like, what can you do? I mean, I can't make it all of a sudden get better. So that's why I was there, just being the helping hand. And so I went to all the chemotherapies with her. And it was interesting. I got attacked by the left for not being in the office one day, because my schedule's put out every day. So there was one day where there was nothing on the schedule, and this was in between like Christmas and New Year's, and like a lot of these other governors are in the Caribbean vacationing, but I'm at Moffitt Cancer Center with her when they were saying that I wasn't doing my job. And I was just like, politics, it's fine to do, but it's like, you should definitely be rooting for the First Lady of our state to do well, and you should be thankful that her husband is there supporting her.
When she was declared cancer, did she ring the bell?
She did, yeah.
Were you there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, that moment for you.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's the thing.
Well, I know you're a tough guy, Ron DeSantis.
I know.
Standing there as your wife rings the cancer-free bell.
We had a big hug.
Did you shed a tear then?
I was emotional. And from instance.
Sorry, my fingers.
Really?
We both really like Guinness. I love her.
Guinness.
It's just something. And when I remember we went to Ireland and Scotland years ago, and like just being in the pubs.
Yo, L beer.
Being able to do it. They said that the beer was all warm over there, but they actually have Guinness extra cold taps.
Oh, no,
so you get it. I mean, it's just fantastic.
So you had a couple of pints of Guinness.
That's right.
No better way to do it. Huh? There was an incredibly sad time in your life, which was the loss of your sister,
my God.
Christine, who died in London. It was reported she died of a pulmonary hemorrhage. Guy, that moment.
Doing well, and she said that Christine's in the hospital.
Doing that? I have no idea what's going on right now.
She probably would have moved back to Florida. She was in Charlotte at the time working for a bank, but she always wanted to get back here, and so she would be here, probably being involved in a lot of stuff that we were doing, and so.
What did she make of you and what was happening with you?
I was the big brother, so we were 85, I was 7 years apart. So we weren't necessarily ever in like the same school together or any of that. So I was kind of like a little bit rarefied air in some respects. She always looked up to me. And I think some of it was because I was doing things, she tried to measure up to me. And I told her, I was like, don't worry about that. I was like, you just be you and do what you can do. And she was very successful. When she got out of school, she got her master's and everything. So
it's hard to think of a worse thing actually for a family, I think, than losing a sibling. You're a Catholic, I'm a Catholic. How important was faith at a moment like that for you?
It's important because I think you start to question, things that are.
How important's faith? It's important, and let me tell you why it's actually not important, and I won't address your question. Let's get to the Trump stuff.
They're unjust. Like, I mean, I think that that's something that's accumulated with experience. And
do you think
I'm praying for the health of the state too. I mean, I think that wisdom when I need to kind of tap into that.
Do you think you've got wisdom?
I try to. I mean, I think that that's something that's accumulated with experience, and I think I've gained a lot since I've been governor. But you know, I wouldn't say that that I've tapped out yet. I got more to do.
Let's get to the question you're not going to answer. I guess.
Can't imagine.
Let me ask it anyway, and you can bat it away because I'm not expecting you to.
You haven't answered any.
Now, but everybody's assuming you're going to announce, reasonably soon, you're going to run for president of the United States.
Yeah, the last report I've seen is supposed to strike something up in May. Let's see. All signs point to yes. Like, come on. I don't know. Maybe he's just quibbling over it. It's like, oh my God, Casey hasn't decided what kind of banners that we want to go. I want to go with traditional bunting, but she wants to go with a red, white, and blue curtain set. I don't know, though. We're just asking our kids. It's fucking shut up.
Are you?
So I haven't made a final decision on it. I've told people I've got a lot that I've got to do over the next few months in Florida. We're going to put a lot of points on the board, and then we'll see how the dust settles after that. But I can tell you, we just have a lot of people that realize the country's not going in the right direction and believe that what we've been able to do in Florida, if we could apply that nationally, would kind of get America back on track and back on our foundations. And so I take that very seriously. It's humbling that people have come to me and asked me to do it or urged me to do it. So stay tuned.
That sounds like almost a yes.
It's a stay tuned.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
Well, because I mean, look, I've got a young family. I mean, I've got different obligations, and it's not.
You're going to get your shit pushed in by Trump?
The easiest thing in the world to go through. And I also want to make sure that, you know, I have a very clear rationale for doing what I'm doing. All I'm interested in doing is getting things done and accomplishing things. I don't need a title. I don't need fanfare. I just want to know that if I put my mind to this, if we ever did that and we're successful, what could I do to make a difference? And that's what I have to have.
Do you think you have what it takes to be president of the United States?
Look, I think what it takes is to have a vision for the country, have the ability to exercise leadership, and being willing to stand in that fire when it gets really, really hot and not back down under pressure. And I think I have.
That was a lot of passive descriptions that he had right there. Be willing to show the characteristics of... No, America needs a leader, it needs a vision, and it needs decisive action. That's what it needs. Not all of these fucking weaselly terms, bro. The more that we listen to this, the less confidence I'm having. Thank God he's doing a good job down there in Florida, because on a global scale, man, how do you think? How do you think he'd fare against an adversarial interview? How do you think he'd fare against Putin? Yeah, Putin. How do you think he'd fare against Xi? How do you think that he'd fare against Kim Jong-il? Oh, he would never even get the fucking invitation to begin with, but you know who did? The other guy, the orange man, who's probably standing and talking to, like, what, a bigger audience than Ron's ever talked to his entire life, let alone his piddly little, inauguration. There we go. That's the term I was looking for. That kind of fell apart there at the end, but it started good.
I have all those things.
You got a great endorsement from someone. Ron DeSantis is a brilliant young leader. Yale and then Harvard Law, who would make a great governor of Florida, which turned out to be true. He loves our country. He's a true fighter. And there's a ringing endorsement from President Trump.
Times change a little bit, I guess. You know, it is what it is. So.
Yeah, I mean, he was a big fan.
No, I mean, I think, and I think, you know, we had a good relationship as a congressman, and I think one of the reasons he got to know me is because I saw this Russia collusion thing as a farce from the beginning. Right. Very few people said that. We had a handful of us in Congress that were fighting back against that, and so I would go on TV and I would defend him when it wasn't popular and when it was kind of politically risky, but I just thought it was the right thing to do, and I thought that he had good ideas for the country, so I wanted to do it. And then when I became governor, his last 2 years as president, I was governor my first 2 years, and we worked very well together. I mean, he had a place in Florida. He wasn't a resident yet, but he understood Florida and really worked well with us to serve our state.
You made a fatal error in your relationship with
What's that?
Donald Trump. You got too popular.
Well, I would say if you look at some of the change from that and all the way up, what's been the kind of the major thing that happened that's changed his tune was my re-election victory. Right. I mean, that's kind of the mark.
Well, because many of his picks in the midterms did badly, and you, who had been, you know, he was a mentor in many ways, I guess, early on, had this thumping victory. And I guess if you're him and you're desperate to get back to the White House, this was a bit of a nightmare that you were getting such validation in Florida.
In my view.
It's very, very interesting, because you could have also gone back in that and you could have seen the moment that Piers started to heap praise on him. He's like, yeah, no, it's all great. And it's like, oh, yeah, no, yeah, it was so nice to be good in Florida. And then when Piers starts to talk about, oh, yeah, you know, Trump's endorsements, they got thrashed in the midterms, or whatever his fucking goofy-ass accent is. It's interesting because Trump also endorsed Marco Rubio, Rick Scott, Ron DeSantis as well. The only person that I remember Ron DeSantis endorsing was Lee Zeldin and Don Baldock in New Hampshire. How well did those picks go? Just wondering. Anybody remember? What are they doing right now? Oh, collecting unemployment.
Though is like, look, we should want the country to do well. I want other Republicans to do well. I want them to eclipse me. We're setting a great standard in Florida. Have everyone up their game. I want other governors to do a great job.
Which is your favorite nickname that Trump's given you so far? Is it Ron DeSanctimonious or Meatball Ron?
Why?
Ron DONE-Santis. I like that one. Mostly because I came up with it.
I can't.
I think even he went off Meatball Ron.
I can't. I don't know how to spell DeSanctimonious. I don't really know what it means, but I kind of.
See, guys, I'm just a blue-collar man of the people. I grew up in Pennsylvania and Ohio. I brought conservative values to Harvard and Yale. He's a smart-ish guy, okay? Probably peg him at about 110, 120 IQ. He knows the veneer that he's putting on. He's just not smart enough to completely pull it off, because if anybody analyzes him for a second, has the stones to listen to in an entire interview, you realize that it's as waxy as the complexion that, I want to give you credit for that one, man, because, was it Brian? It's Brian. He's got a waxy complexion. Yo, man. Napoleon complex. Yo, man, shut up. You guys. That was non sequitur right there with the complexion of a wax figurine. No, it's just good lighting, bro. Just good lighting.
Like, it's long, it's got a lot of vowels. I mean, so we go with that. That's fine. You know, you can call me whatever you want. I mean, just as long as you also call me a winner, because that's what we've been able to do in Florida, is put a lot of points on the board and really take the state to the next level.
Yeah, but don't call me late for supper.
On stage, I mean, have you read Mary Shelley's book, Frankenstein?
I have not.
Okay, it's a great book, and obviously spawned several
movies. I know where you're going.
There are prophetic words of warning from Dr. Woolman to Dr. Frankenstein. You have created a monster, and it will destroy you.
Nobody wants to see.
And you're alluding to what? I have seen the movie, though. It is a good movie.
You know what I'm talking about, Governor. It's like where Dr. Frankenstein creates a monster and then loses control of the monster, and in the book, obviously, the monster ends up killing him.
Well, look, at the end of
the parallel I'm making.
At the end of the day, what's best for the country, and let's put the country first, rather than worry about any personalities or any type of individual image. But at the end of the day, I'm a vessel for the aspirations of the people I represent. It's really not about me. It's about whether I can be someone. And yes, you have attributes, leadership, some of the things you mentioned, thick skin, I think is important. But ultimately, it's about them. It's not about me. And I think if every elected official thought that way, we'd probably be better. Ronald Reagan said, there's no limit to what you can accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit.
Ronald Reagan also instituted no-fault divorce, so I don't necessarily think it's a virtue to put up somebody that could barely remember his final 2 years in office, but you're trying to hold up yours as just some sort of bastion of free speech. I understand. It's like, I like Ronald Reagan. Okay, I've taken a look at some of his, it was a little bit before my time, but I understand his reign. Good stuff, man. All good stuff. Definitely the last decent, good president. Not character-wise or anything like that. Don't know too much about that, and all things considered, compared to the next crop all the way up until Trump. But the fact that you got to pull out an old Reagan quote to justify your own lack of concrete values, like, what are Ron DeSantis' principles? Because he's making all of these statements. Basically, it boils back to shout out Patrice O'Neill for it was a joke at the time, but I like to attribute it to different politicians. He's shaped like whatever container you pour him into. That's what I get off of Ron, and I don't like it.
That's true, but you're up against somebody who definitely cares who gets the credit, who's desperate to want to win back the White House and prove that his theory that he had it wrong.
Well, I'm not up against anybody, quite yet. We're up against...
the polls basically have you two up here and everybody else down here. So if you get
the way I view it, though.
Can we go ahead and peek those polls one more time? Trump up by 18 points, up by 26. Yeah, no, just right up there, right up there.
But the way I view it, though, if I were to run, I'm running against Biden. Like, we're competing for the Republican potentially. I get that, but ultimately, the guy I'm going to focus on is Biden, because I think he's failed the country. I think the country wants a change. I think they want a fresh start.
Here's where he gets good again.
And so we'll be very vocal about that. I spent a lot of time in Florida fighting back.
You think you could beat Biden?
I think so.
So you're running them?
No, I didn't say that. I just said I think I could. I mean, I think that's. I mean, if you look at Florida,
who would be harder to beat, Biden or Donald Trump?
I don't know. Those are two different.
I mean, if you do decide to run, we can pretend.
Oh, we just about caught him right there. But yeah, when we talked about this a couple of days ago, when the first little snippet of this leaked out, I kind of thought that was going to be the context that clip was going to be taken out of. Okay, Piers was going to be asking him a question. Do you think he could beat Biden? And then he said, yeah. So yeah, no, okay, good. It can't be too hard on him when it comes to this stuff, because it's just you answer the question that you're given. Or you make like the other 90% of this interview where you just tap dance around it, and because he won't press you on that because he's scared of being canceled by talking to a Republican or some shit like that. Whatever, man. We're just about done. Guys. We just about did it.
Around the horses here. But if you do decide to run in the next few months, obviously it will then be you v. Donald Trump for the Republican nomination. People have been quite kind of scared.
Excuse me, Nikki Haley's going to be up there and Mike Pence?
They said you're house-trained Donald, your Diet Coke to his full Coke, right?
Yeah.
You've heard all this stuff. What are the differences between you? Well, I know him very well. Having now spent time with you, I could immediately identify a few differences. But
Get the
what do you
crickets.
think of the differences?
Crickets.
Well, I mean, I think there's a few things. I mean, obviously, the approach to COVID was different. I mean, I would have fired
Yeah, it was.
somebody like Fauci. I think that he got way too big for his britches, and I think he did a lot of damage. I also think just in terms of my approach to leadership, I get personnel in the government who have the agenda of the people and share our agenda. If you bring your own agenda in, you're gone. We're just not going to have that. So the way we run the government, I think, is no daily drama, focus on the big picture, and put points on the board. And I think that that's something that's very important.
You've not been sucked into responding to any of the taunts. Is that a deliberate strategy?
I'm just not following it. I mean, I get taunted and I get attacked every day. I mean, you see some of that. To me, it's just kind of background noise. It's not important for me to be fighting with people on social media. It's not accomplishing anything for the people I represent. So we really just focus on knocking out victories day after day. And if I got involved in all the undertow, I would not be able to be an effective governor. So I don't think it's something that makes sense for me.
As all this heat around maybe a presidential run gets hotter, a lot more focus now on you and policies and so on. One of the things that people criticize you about, they say you're trying to straddle various positions
talk about
which are
Disney.
unsustainable going forward. One is to win the Republican nomination and to appeal to the Trump MAGA base, and the other would be to win a national election against Joe Biden. You know this. And some of your critics say that you're trying to pander too much to the right. Examples being this bill going through to try and reduce the abortion time limit to 6 weeks in Florida, which would make it one of the toughest places in America to have an abortion. The bill...
Actually, it's on par with Texas, Mississippi, or is that Missouri? No, it was Missouri, because Missouri ended up triggering that when they took it to the Supreme Court. It's actually on par with a bunch of other places. Heartbeat bills, it's like, just stop trying to mischaracterize them. And then again, weird. I thought he said he didn't want any credit for any of this stuff, but then he pointed that out, and he's like, yeah, it'd be one of the hardest places, when it's just factually untrue.
Also potentially going through about the ability to carry a gun in a concealed way without a permit when you need a permit, for example, to drive a car.
Red
People are
flags.
saying that you're pushing this really quite... I don't want to get into the semantics of those debates, right? I've learned that it's an American issue, and that debate should be had by Americans, and I respect
Ben Shapiro enters the chat.
that. But in terms of where you position yourself, are you worried that if you take such hardline positions, hard conservative positions on things like abortion, guns, and so on, that it makes it more difficult for you to win a national election should you choose to run?
Well, I don't really think that they're necessarily hardline positions. I mean, for example, the concealed carry, that's 25 states have that in the United States. And I think we could say my first 4 years as governor, a lot of people said the same criticism, that somehow I was only doing stuff for right. In reality, I mean, we were doing things like raise teacher salaries, we were doing conservation, we were doing things across the board, and I ended up winning a record victory. I won independence by 18 percentage points. And so that'll be the same formula that we would take. And honestly, forget about me. I think anybody should take a formula like that nationally. You can't win with just Republicans. You got to win with independents, and you need to convince some of these Democrats, which I was able to do in Florida, because there are people that are Democrats because that's what their family were. They're not woke. They don't like some of the nonsense going on. They want their streets safe, and they want quality education. So I think you could appeal to people across the gambit.
I just wanted to check your fingers for a moment, because I've noticed a very slimmed down Ron DeSantis. You've lost a lot of weight recently.
Well, we're, at the end of the day, it's like a New Year's resolution, just get back in the swing of things.
I have the same thing.
I'm a athlete and a military veteran, and so as governor, you can get caught up in a lot of other stuff.
How much have you lost?
I don't know. I mean, I don't weigh or anything like that.
I mean, quite a lot. I mean,
I'm on a good regimen, and we'll keep it going. And
apparently no carbs and no dessert.
So I think the sugar is the biggest issue, because basically if you do sugar, your body burns sugar. If you don't, it burns fat. And so if you're working out and just eating halfway decent.
I'm doing exactly the same thing, Bobby, since Christmas.
Okay.
So we're almost together.
There you go.
You're probably doing a bit better than me. But I was asking about your fingers because of this scandal.
All right, girls.
That you apparently were eating chocolate pudding with 3 fingers.
Now, was that anonymous sources or something?
It was a very serious allegation. In fact, I congratulated the journalist who broke it on the new Watergate. But I have to put it to you, Governor. Have you ever eaten a chocolate pudding with 3 fingers?
I don't remember ever doing that.
Hey guys, remember when Trump wanted 2 scoops of ice cream, but nobody else could have 2 scoops because he was better than everybody else? Keep that same energy.
I'm telling you, maybe when I was a kid, but it's interesting. There's a lot of people when they go at you, sometimes they have like really good ammunition. Like, you're a crook, you did this, you did that. For me, they're talking about pudding. Like, is that really the best you got? Okay, bring it on.
But now you're not having puddings.
No pudding.
We love the pudding.
You can't be doing
these
puddings
two things
with
are
sugar.
not linked.
I don't know. Maybe there's sugar-free pudding. I got to look into that and try to figure out how we go from there.
I just want the one without the quaaludes in it.
Who knows? Next few months, maybe we'll come and interview again when you're running for president.
I'm glad you came to Tallahassee. I know it's your first time, and we welcome you to Florida's historic capital.
Next time you're in St Andrews in Scotland,
we got to do that.
Let's have a little.
If I can get out there, we got to do that.
Little battle on the old course.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
England v America.
Yeah, and then your wife will just come and covet your balls. That was fantastic, actually. Well, not so much the coverage or anything like that. Hey, shout out No Enemies, man. I didn't see you enter here. It's been a second since I've been able to take a look at the chat or anything like that. Yo, guys, that was interesting. What do you guys think about that interview? I don't really get a whole hell of a lot out of it when it came to Ron. It's just kind of really re-entrenched everything I was thinking about him to begin with. He's not very smart. Not very doesn't really have his own opinions. It's kind of what I'm finding out about this guy. And, well, if he has a good advisor, I'm just trying to think if Trump can't end up ultimately running in 2024, if he ends up getting indicted on those Mar-a-Lago charges or anything like that, if he ends up being the pick and then you just got to contend with all of the neocon money that's coming in, like, what are his positions? It seems like a return to normal. It seems back to that malaise that you had from HW all the way through Obama, just with the little 4-year speed bump. I don't like what I said. I don't like him anymore after this. It's kind of consistent. It's really kind of consistent after that. So, yeah, let's see what you guys are talking about here. Suffering through Piers Morgan is mine now. Shout out to you, Brian, man. You guys have been lighting up the chat. You know, everybody that's in there. I had no idea how this was going to go. Absolutely no idea. But this is going to be kind of the format that I want to go forward, okay? Theoretically, because everybody, if you guys are sticking around this long, it's been over 2 hours, okay? I'll let you in on a little behind-the-curtain stuff, okay? Ultimately, if you guys like these streams or anything like that, okay, here's one thing that I don't want to do for the channel. I'll put this up front first and foremost. Whenever a channel starts to do streams, they start to lack on the content that built their channel. I think that is... It's a betrayal of the people that signed up for your channel. So there's always going to be just the everyday content. Now, I'm also thinking of maybe doing, this is probably in the future. Okay, this won't be happening for months or anything like that. Maybe on the weekends things might change, but having the 2 pieces of content and then doing the 3rd piece of content as these nice long streams. Like, whenever I'm listening to something, whenever I'm doing something in the background, put it on a stream, like I was saying before, okay, a podcast, an audiobook or something like that, something to learn. Now, it's probably going to be, some breaking down videos, some going through some of the topics that we were talking about, like I was putting up in that community post a little bit earlier, a couple weeks ago at this point in time, I guess it would have been. So that's what I want to do. I want to replace the 3rd video with a stream so that we can have good interactivity like this, because, yo, man, we got Jermeet, we got No Enemies, we got Long Reach 1, we got Brian, we got all you got. I don't want to miss anybody. CDPR. I've seen you guys in here. Okay. Yeah, man. I had a really good time. Hey, shout out there, Ed. Yeah, man. You just got back. We're just wrapping up here. Just doing a little bit of housekeeping. Got to catch. Yeah, man. Everything's going to be up here. Oh, as for Rumble, this is what I'm going to be doing. It'll probably go up here tomorrow, okay, over on Rumble. Everything's just recording locally, so I'll just upload that over there first thing in the morning. Right after this, your boy hasn't eaten all day. I eat 1 meal a day, okay? They were talking about their diets like little fucking, schoolgirls there at the end, so your boy's going to have a bite to eat after this. Do a couple of, just a couple of updates on the stream for, just so it's just archived on the channel. It'll be up here if you want to watch it or whatever like that, man, so... I'm here. Hey, Roger. Yo, man, we've definitely talked before. That's 1,000%. Yep, just watching on TV. Shout out to you, man. No, shout out to everybody who's been in here. I know we peaked. Hey, we're actually keeping pretty consistent, all things considered. We really kind of did a shit job when it comes to promoting. That's the term that I was looking for. Promoting the stream beforehand. I put it out this morning. Didn't have a time or anything like that. But if you guys are cool with the time, I'm thinking like 7. I would have been good to go at 7 if it wasn't for a couple of the technical back-end things where if you go and watch the replay, it's probably just going to be staring at the screen in this picture right here. It's like, how the fuck does this shit work? So it'll eventually become a smoother process. Okay, so yeah, hit the likes. Yeah, man, please. It really, really does. I don't like to ask for anything like that or anything. So if you guys, what do we got? If you guys have any questions or anything like that, you don't have to super chat. You don't have to do any of that shit. Okay, if you guys have any questions on the way out, other than that, yeah, open for Q&A here for a second, man. Time is good. Yo, shout out, Brian. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. You've been here, the entire time? And nights. Sorry, man, I forgot. Hey, man. Yeah, I have to go to... Yeah, man, shout out to the Netherlands. Yo, man, I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that, man. Shout out to you. Shout out to you, Long Reach 1. Appreciate that, man. And, yeah, got to start somewhere for sure, man, for sure. Time is good. Yep. Yeah, man. So, if you guys don't have anything else, for me, locally, it's about 9:45 to 10. normally used to doing this stuff. Anyways, stay consistent is my only suggestion. I do tune in if I know it's coming. Yeah, I'll probably keep this time frame specifically and especially for Saturdays. Yeah, thinking about doing it for Sunday. Maybe more of this type of content, like video. Not video reaction, because I think those are kind of gay. Oh, like I was saying before, with the future of the channel and stuff like that, whenever a channel starts to do a bunch of streams, they start to just clog up their feed with a bunch of clips and shorts from the streams. Fuck no. No, I hate that stuff. I wouldn't do that to myself, and I wouldn't do that to you guys. So, you did a one-man show. Yeah, you did great. Hey, shout out to you, Non Sequitur. I appreciate that, man. And to Jermeet, everybody that's in the everybody that's just in the chat, man. Like, I appreciate you guys. Like I said, I just thought it was going to be me. This was just going to be live to tape, and you guys can watch a replay if you're so inclined to. But, hey, yeah, thanks. You did a great job with the stream, and appreciate all your hard work at putting into your content. I don't like to bring it up very often, but it's a lot of work. If you see, especially, like, if I was to edit up this video, cut out all the pauses, even though there really weren't all that many, the back end of this stuff, this would have been, no word of a lie, about a 3.5 hour, 4 hour long project. Everything that you see from the time that it comes from conception all the way through until the time that it's published for all of you guys to enjoy out there, 2 or 3 times as long as the actual video itself, at least. And then especially now that I'm doing more detailed and intricate thumbnails, like, I'm not complaining, man. This is the funnest shit I've ever had the opportunity to do in my life, and that's something, man. Like, okay, once I figure out how to work the chat a little bit better, if we can start, just shooting the shit back and forth, talking about old work stories. Your boy's got a few. I've worked at a bunch of different places, so I think everybody's had a good time out here, at least from what I can tell from the chat. I'll be going back to doing a couple of other things, but as far as I can tell, if you guys had a good time, I think I did my job for the day. So, with all of that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone. And tap button.